This podcast is part of the Midwest Podcast Network. Find out more about our other shows and how to support our network at midwestpodcastnetwork.com. You are now tuned in to Westworld FM, a podcast about HBO's Westworld. My name is Alex.
My name is Nick.
And I'm John.
Today we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 10 of the show titled The Passenger. We will not be discussing any other next time preview because there wasn't one at the end of the show because this is the Season 2 finale.
Boo.
But we will be discussing everything through Season 2, Episode 10 of the series, so please pause and go catch up if you're not current on the show. If you have not watched past the credits of this finale, there's something big after it, and you should watch that before listening to the rest of this episode.
Because I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it so hard.
We're reviewing the episode backwards, so it's the first thing we're going to talk about.
Yes. It might be the first thing on the timeline of the entire... No, that's probably not
that's
true.
False.
But
That
anyway.
is so false.
We're going to review this episode like an episode of the show where Alex will be mid-sentence, then he'll just stop and say, I'm not really here with you, am I?
Is this now?
Is this now?
When will then be now? Soon.
That should just be the transition noise for whenever I go to a
Yeah,
clip.
and
Is
like
this now?
the flashing of black frames.
Oh, boy. You can find more episodes of our podcast at westworld.fm. We're also Westworld FM on Twitter, and you can send feedback to westworldfm at gmail.com to tell us what you think of our show and share your thoughts on HBO's Westworld. Send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Westworld or our podcast. If you enjoy this show or any other show on the Midwest Podcast Network, please consider heading over to patreon.com/MidwestPodnet. That's MidwestPodnet, and pledge as little as $1 a month to make our network even better. Special thanks to Jason K., who's pledged at the level of $10 per month. And we're at $37 a month, I believe.
Sick.
We are almost covering the costs of hosting everything.
$36.54.
$36.54. So
How on earth did it end up at 54 cents?
They charge fees.
They
They take their little cut. But we have
who donated $9.54 just to be like, nah, I'm good.
We currently have 10 patrons.
Yes.
So
That's
that's
pretty
pretty
cool.
rad.
That's awesome. Thank you to everyone who has chosen to give
Double
us
digits.
some money.
Right. We have 6 of them that are part of the Discord chat,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
I love talking to people on the Discord.
It's great.
So
It's
much
great,
fun.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
And it's fun to hop into the other shows, like people who like, oh,
Yes.
horror movie yearbook. I just watched a horror movie. Let's talk about it. everybody.
seamlessly move between the podcast network.
That's true.
It's really, really awesome.
That's true.
It's
Do
the,
we
cra-
have
it's the
6
cradle?
are there
Is
6
it our
podcasts?
cradle?
It is our cradle.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Discord is our cradle.
There we
Or
go.
is it our Forge? What's
No, the Forge
name?
is the other one.
Oh.
The other Discord that we have is definitely the Forge.
Oh,
yeah, that's where all
geez.
the irredeemable people
Yeah, I was
are.
gonna say that's the valley behind.
The valley behind.
It's
beautiful.
terrible. It's
Anyway.
just a pit instead of a
Yeah, it's just
nice door.
It's just a hole.
It's just a hole.
big hole with no bottom.
It's when their bodies come out the other side without their
Yes.
lovely souls.
All right. Corrections department. So Saturday night, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, so I'm going to watch some Westworld again. I started season 2, episode 1, and was like, I can't do this to myself. I'm going to keep watching all of it. But I did notice the bear is in the control room at the beginning of like the earliest time point.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's there soon after Ford dies. So it gets cleaned up by the time Strand is there. We never get to see the bear in action because
It happened in the interim,
it
basically?
it happened in the interim.
Oh, my God, what a tease. I don't
Such a
care.
bummer.
It still should have seen it.
I mean, because I had watched some of the Next Time On previews. I was hoping that when Maeve had the bulls,
The running with the bull, running with the
buffalo
bulls.
running through,
Yeah.
I was hoping the bear was
You would see the
involved
bear,
somehow.
yeah.
But
She's riding the bear
Yes.
amongst
please,
the buffalo.
I did like that callback to the credits, though.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there
yeah,
real quick.
absolutely.
Yeah, those credits.
So yeah, that was the correction. We also did get an email from our friend Mike D, who came to us with Preacher.
Mike D.
So thanks for making the jump. He said, "Hey guys, didn't realize you had a Westworld pod until I listened to the Preacher preview. The episode titles of the new season combined with TC, Jody, Grandma, and All Father. Can't wait." There's a little throw to Preacher. We will be starting our Preacher podcast shortly. like basically right after this. There will be an episode out at some point this week.
Very soon.
Yes, because season 3 has begun. So if you are into Preacher or don't know what that is, go check it out and then check out our show.
Can you say it like Shao Kahn? It has begun.
I think you mean Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung, yeah, my bad.
I was thinking
Your mistake indeed.
Your soul is mine,
Your
but I was
soul.
like, well, that's kind of Preacher. But anyway,
Your soul is mine.
everybody
Yeah,
check
it
out
kind of
Preacher and our show Gone to Texas. G2tpodcast.com is where you can find that. But anyway, Mike goes on. He says, William is not a host, and if he is, I'll be really upset. It ruins the whole thing in my mind. Remember, the maze was not for him. I agree. He said, I had the opinion earlier in the season that Maeve was really just Juliet as a host, mainly because she was looking for her lost child, Emily, in quotations, or in parentheses and question mark, and that William was somewhat obsessed with her, but now I'm not sure. I'm positive that the season will end with some sort of romance between Maeve and the other asshole writer dude that she had kidnapped. Not totally true or...
Which episode is this in reference to?
This,
episode 9?
he wrote this before episode 10 aired.
Okay.
So he doesn't know anything about the finale. But I did want to read it anyway because he was nice enough to write us an email. He said, as for Dolores, I was kind of bored by her all season, and ironically, the only interesting thing was how she treated Teddy. I can't disagree with that.
Sure.
He says, I think that current day Bernard, post-flood, will be revealed to have had Dolores' memory transferred into him. Something went wrong, and she had to dump her mind, which explains why he's acting so weird in the present day stuff.
Close, but no
Close,
cigar.
but not quite. And we'll get there. He said, I also really loved the, quote, James Delos host experiment, end quote, story. But I'm not crazy about how it was followed up. Interesting. I think that's interesting. And if you want to expound upon that for our season wrap-up show, I'd be interested to hear more of your thoughts, Mike. And then he said, more than any other show in recent memory since Seinfeld or Sopranos, the finale will make or break the entire season, maybe the show. How they resolve it will be how the entire show is remembered, plus where do they go from here? Is it possible to have a season 3? Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I'm more interested in covering that either at the end of this episode or in our season wrap-up, kind of how we feel about the finale we can get to in a little bit, but where season 3 might go, I think is a bigger question mark and something we should address in a future season wrap-up episode.
Cool.
So, Mike, thank you very much for writing in. You were pretty close on some things. You're like, everybody who makes theories about the show ends up being somewhat right because it's all over the place.
Well, and again,
awesome.
it's the sort of thing where a lot of the clues are kind of laid out in front of you, and you just have to kind of piece it together. And it's cool that like everybody has this opportunity to like piece it together in their own way, and they all interpret things differently. And I like that. I like hearing from people and hearing their theories, and you know, when they deny mine, specifically about William being host, it kind of hurts my feelings. But I have my team of supporters, and I appreciate them.
All right. Well, we'll get there.
I was really pleased to hear that you made a Bionic Arms reference on the Game Nerds podcast on the most recent episode. It was right near the end.
I think I started laughing.
I think you said you wanted to give your character in Cyberpunk Bionic Arms. You said you wanted it to look as much like you as possible with Bionic Arms.
Yeah. Yep.
I got a good laugh out of that.
That's good.
Gotta have those.
Which always, I'm
Bionic
sure,
arms.
looks weird from the outside when I'm sitting at home by myself eating lunch and it's just quietly eating, and then I go, huh. Just laugh once.
Loudly
Or
exhale.
one of the when you just like you heavily blow air out of your nose.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, that'd be weird too.
So for the recap in this episode, I made things as chronological as possible. So we're going to start at the quote-unquote 11 days prior to Strand's arrival. So this is shortly after Dolores kills the natives with Teddy in episode 9, which we know happened 11 days and some hours before Strand arrived.
Right.
All right. So everyone begins to converge on the valley beyond. Bernard's car breaks down, so he walks on foot. Dolores wakes up next to Teddy's body, and she recovers his chestnut as the bullet did not pierce it. She also keeps the bullet. She runs into William as he digs into his arm, and she places Teddy's bullet into his gun's barrel for later. She collects William as they venture forward, and Ake and his friends are marching towards the valley as well, but QA backs their own horsewoman of the apocalypse, Clementine. This one was really hard to summarize, so I apologize if the English is horrible. It's normally pretty bad, even when it's not that hard to summarize. But yeah, so interestingly enough, we now know that hosts are invincible as long as their pearl, their chestnut remains intact, essentially. Teddy shot himself in the head, but the bullet could not pierce the chestnut. So therefore, she could print another Teddy body.
Yes.
And we could see that beautiful butt one more time. But instead, she puts him in the Valley Beyond. But anyway.
She said you can't improve upon perfection.
It's true. It's true. But I thought that was interesting just to kind of note that, like, like Lawrence is still technically retrievable at this point.
Everyone is, for the most
Literally everyone who didn't go through the door
is
retrievable.
Yeah.
Because that's the reference that's made in episode 1 when the tech is looking at the host and says a third of them.
That was like episode 4 or so.
Yeah. So he says a third of them have nothing on them, and those are that third is the third of the hosts that actually made it through the door.
Yep. Yeah. So
that's cool.
Interesting thing to learn there. I love that Bernard pulls his jacket out of the back of the truck. He's in the middle of the desert, but he still pulls out his suit coat.
You know, you never know. It could come in handy.
That's true.
The best metaphor I read on the subreddit was that the hosts whose consciousness were transferred to the valley, they were not control copied. They were control cut and then control pasted.
Yeah, there you go.
So
there you go.
Removing from the original and placing into the new.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other thoughts on everybody converging on the valley?
You know, we still don't see what William's up to in his arm there. Like,
my thought on
that. We never get to see either way.
What does she say? What does Dolores say to him while he's doing it?
She says, "Are you beginning to question the nature of your reality?"
Seems you've begun to question the nature of your reality, is what she says to him, and then he stops. I think if he found a wire or anything, I think we're supposed to take that it's probably moments or something between when he kneels down and starts digging into his arm and when Dolores shows up.
Yeah.
But I think he knows where to look, and he would have found something if he was a host. I think he's still a human.
It's just so funny how they just won't commit.
Yeah.
And even the way, like, his mental state when she comes up and says that, he just gives like this really dry chuckle, and he's kind of like it could mean anything. It could mean like, yep, isn't that weird? I'm a human, but I think I'm not. Or, well, son of a bitch, I'm a host. How about that? Like, it could mean anything. It's so infuriating and awesome at the same time. I still think he's a human as well, but I love that they just won't tell us. Like, they just want to. I like to think that they were like going to shoot the scene, and they were like, hold on, and just like blocked him a little differently so you couldn't see. They're like, let's get a version like that. We don't know yet what we're going to do. I actually have wondered that in the past, if they shoot different versions of scenes and stuff like that, so that even the actors don't necessarily know. Because I read about Hemsworth's reaction to getting his script very late into filming, and his like freak out. What's his Luke? He's Luke Hemsworth.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, that's awesome. See, I like that they don't necessarily like. I think even Jimmy Simpson didn't know necessarily. And
Jimmy Simpson was the first one to figure out that he was the Man in Black.
Yes,
because they asked him to trim his eyebrows.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Why would they have me trim my eyebrows unless they want me to look like someone?"
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Who would they want me to look like?" And then he's like, "It's got to be Ed Harris."
It'd be amazing if he was on set, just like at the craft service table, like talking to people, and he just looks at Ed and goes, "Man, his eyebrows are really thin, aren't they?" What the? Whoa! And it just freaks out.
That could totally have been what happened, but
he just stands there pointing at him like Donald Sutherland in the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Game of Thrones, they have filmed false scenes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I feel like Westworld's going to get to that point. I think after this season, especially, they're going to start like fooling around with that kind of stuff to try to stay one step ahead of everybody.
It's entirely possible. Entirely possible. All right, let's move on. So I looked up the body shop tech's name because it was just bothering me too much. It's Roland.
What an asshat.
Yeah.
What a nerd.
Roland, the body shop tech, turns on Maeve's pain programming again and gets ready to dismember her when Maeve summons other hosts to take him down. As Hector finds Sizemore inconsolable in the hallway, they come across a QA team waiting outside of a loud fracas. Several buffalo burst through the doors with Maeve in tow, and she decided to save herself since they were a bit late. As John mentioned, we do get to see the buffalo tumble over into the like stairwell.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like the intro, so that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
That dude turning on Maeve's pain to take her apart is just
what a piece of shit.
Everybody who works in the
Seriously.
body shop except for like Felix is just a sleazeball.
Yeah, they've got to go through some sort of screening process before they get those jobs to make sure that they are like mildly sociopathic and like.
I mean, you would think, especially because you're dealing with, not people, but hosts that resemble humans, and you're dealing with them in a dead state, and you're constantly having to like reanimate them and like fix them and things. Like you kind of have to have a few screws loose, or at least in the wrong place to like really make sense of that and be okay with it. So
does Delos go to the mortuary sciences job fair?
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, down at Wayne State.
I was going to say that too. Come on, guys. Let me be me on the show. No, that, and then like med students probably. Like I'll bet the body of the body shop workers, but the top brass down there, I'm sure, are like all crazy people.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a little bit about like the hiring process there, because you got, Hale talks later about Elsie's
moral
profile. Yeah, exactly. And they probably know intimately exactly what personality type each of these people are. And I think that's probably...
Which says to me that they knew that one dude last year was jerking it to naked Hector. Do you remember that? Destin?
I do.
His name was Destin.
Yeah. These names, man. Destin and Roland. Just chilling in the baddie shop.
Yeah. Only the best people, right? Maeve bursting through the doors with all the buffalo was quite wonderful.
It was cool.
I will say the first couple scenes of this episode to me felt like a later Harry Potter movie, where they're like, we can't film all of this, so we're just going to put some scenes together of like that. We need to get everyone in certain places.
It is very expedited.
Yes.
A little bit, yeah. And just the whole idea of like Maeve being like Hector being there to like save her, and then her being like, well, you weren't fast enough, so my bad. Like,
meanwhile, we're gonna go all the way to the Valley Beyond, where some people have been trying to get for the whole season.
Meanwhile, magically, Dolores is able to find William in the middle of nowhere in this like massive theme park. Like,
yeah.
So some of this is like, it's hard to suspend the disbelief a bit, to like understand like, okay, why, like, how is that even possible? They're able to locate these people and such. Same thing with like when Emily found William.
Yeah.
And like, how is it even remotely possible? This park is massive. Like,
that's what comes to mind for a show that treats coincidence as though it isn't or shouldn't be. There's an awful lot of it in this episode.
But it's also, I mean, it could draw back to the idea of like these people being like what we, as we learn later in the episode, people are just in their own loop almost. And maybe these hosts and other people that are finding the people they need to find know this loop somehow. Like they're familiar with the loop or the path that these people are on. It's a predestined code, the whole fate, free will conversation. Who knows? But it's just interesting that it's, out of nowhere, like everyone's able to find everyone they want to find when they need to find them, like with no question.
And that, I mean, I think that some people are seeing that as sloppy writing, and I don't know that I've come to that conclusion quite yet, other than, it's a story and they want to tell the story they want to tell, and I don't know. But
yeah, I wouldn't want to use the word sloppy. I would just say more like,
or
just convenient, I guess. I don't think anything about this show is sloppily written. I think they know what they want to do, but it does again feel a little bit like Lost. Starts to feel at some point where you're like, we have this sprawling ensemble of characters, and we have this big island that is uncharted and unknown, and let's all meet here for like a shootout or something. You know what I mean?
You know what it is? In Westworld, they've actually implemented a real life fast travel, so you can look at your map and click on it and teleport, and you're there. That's
interesting. There's a game near Automata. You're literally storing your body in like a save point to fast travel to another save point. So it's like you have copies of your body everywhere in the world.
That's kind of cool.
You just transfer to the one that you need to use. So
Ooh, there's something else. There's another movie about that.
The Surrogates, starring Bruce Willis.
That could be it, actually. Is it based on a book?
On a comic, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Where you stay in your house and send out a clone of you or whatever, or your
to like interact with the world. That's not quite what I'm thinking.
That sounds great. I'll have that.
I'll take one, please.
If I could just sit at home and be like, you go do things for me.
You become Mojo from the X-Men.
That would be so good.
God, I love Mojo. I love the Mojo-verse. Oh, please. I'm dying for the X-Men franchise to get into the Mojo-verse. It's so great. Anyway, I understand some of those complaints because, like I said, I felt the same way with this episode. I remember texting you guys and saying I felt like a lot of stuff happened in this episode that wasn't necessarily earned.
Yeah.
And although it's stuff that we have been driving towards for maybe like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 episodes worth, it's still, if it doesn't matter how long you're building towards something, if the actual like final chain link clicking into place is like kind of rushed and kind of weird. If it breaks the pace that you've set up, it is weird. Like it all happens very abruptly.
The Maeve crashing through the window scene reminded me of this because I remember watching that and being like, I feel like I should find this cooler than it is right now. Like I thought it was really cool, but I didn't think it was mind blowing. And maybe if I hadn't seen any of the trailers or anything leading up to it where I knew that was going to happen.
Crashing through, you mean like all the buffalo coming?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I kind of see what you mean. Like they because it's so early in the episode, like this is something that should have happened at the end of episode 9.
Yeah.
Because then it would have been like, okay, this episode has crescendoed to this badass moment. Like the end of the one where she was in Shogun World and they're like gearing up towards that battle and you're like, oh my God. And the next one starts at the aftermath. I didn't care because at least the build-up and the tension of it, and then
your mind is going to fill in.
Yes, and exactly, and we all know that sometimes what you imagine is even cooler than what might have been seen, or would be more scary than what actually was there. That kind of thing. But yeah, there's a lot of moments like that happen early in this episode, and I remember the sequence also goes on for a minute.
Yeah,
and at like the maybe like 12th shot of a buffalo like goring a dude and him like like shooting and like in slow-mo, I was like, I get it. Like I got it. we don't need to spend like at this point I'm more interested in where the characters are going, what they're doing than like, this kind of action. Like it was great at the end of episode 1, but at this point, or I'm sorry, not episode 1, season 1, with the big shootout of all the hosts, invading.
But that had story implications.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen that kind of thing. Like we've seen the shit hit the fan in the mesa or whatever. Like I'm good. I got it. Like the one shot that was awesome was her walking amongst them. I was like, that's really cool. It could have literally ended there, and I would have been like, oh my God, they just tore all those guys up. That's sweet. So anyway,
yeah, I really liked the disassembled buffalo, like in the ones that were missing patches of skin.
Yeah, the animation was really good.
It was awesome. And then the only thing I was disappointed in through this whole sequence was the fact that Roland was like I wanted him to be brutally dismembered, and he was not. It was very disappointing.
Well, he did get a saw to the neck.
That's not enough. That's not enough for me. With as brutal as this show has been with other characters, I want to see him be dismembered.
Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't a little worse for him.
Yeah,
Mr. Smock. I'd like to go back to Mr. Smock.
Interesting that the buffalo are mechanical still and not organic tissue.
Mm-hmm.
At least one of them that they showed was, although we see one being printed in the opening.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, so these may just be like decommissioned ones that they have on display or something like that.
True.
Or
Decommissioned Buffalo is a good band name.
That is a great band name. Oh my God.
Also, I wanted to go back for a second. Dolores,
it's a good gamer tag. You can have it.
Dolores talks about running into or seeing Emily's body.
Yeah,
and I felt as though,
again, how did she run into that? Like,
it's cool. Well, I think the path to the valley must be
pretty linear.
I guess. I don't know. You can excuse it on that.
Yeah, I need to. This will be where I'll plant my first seed for Dark Tower references. Is with that the path of the beam.
Path to the
to the Dark Tower.
I thought it was interesting. It's cool that Dolores recognized Emily, even though she presumably maybe hasn't seen her in like adult form. But also
because they went to host camp together.
Well, I was gonna say I feel like there would have been some mention or discussion of that if she was actually a host.
Right. Yeah.
One time at host camp.
Host Camp, good band name.
All right.
I at the end of this, I think that I now believe that Emily is a human, but
she is laid with the other humans at the end of the episode.
yeah, I would have dug it had she been a host and the real Emily's still out there. But at the same time, you are right; it would have devalued Williams killing her. But at the same time, he doesn't give a shit. Like he's, you know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like he's even like kind of he doesn't even when Dolores talks about finding his body. Or her body. He's kind of like, he just.
I think he's still just kind of catatonic from understanding whether or not he's a host. And I think since he presumably makes it out alive, we know he makes it out alive, I think it could be something that we deal with next season.
Perhaps. I sure hope so.
All right. Next up, Dolores informs William that Ake's group wants a door to a new world without humans, while she wants to destroy the Forge like William. As they reach the door to the Forge, Bernard is stopped by some QA goons that are quickly dispatched by Dolores and William. She introduces William to Bernard as they've never met. William tries to kill Dolores, but it doesn't work, and when he pulls the shotgun trigger on his gun, it backfires and blows off a few of his fingers due to the bullet that Dolores left in the chamber. So, Man in Black's gun has one shotgun shell in it, if you guys have not known. It's like a Lamat, I believe, a Lamat revolver or something.
So that explains how it was able to still revolve, like, or do its thing, right? Or no?
That's a different gun that he loads the bullets in later.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, because that the Lamat is broken on the ground by him.
Right.
But yeah, she put Teddy's bullet chip in that chamber, causing it to backfire on him. Essentially. Would it actually happen that way? I don't know, but sadly Mythbusters isn't a TV show anymore, so we'll never know.
It's true.
There was an interesting reference on the subreddit about how Teddy's whole role was to protect Dolores, and even at this moment he still protected her.
Beyond his death.
Yeah. Which I thought was really cool.
Or it's the fact that he never dies, so he can continue to protect her.
He's in the bullet. Teddy the Bullet.
Oh, beautiful.
Why doesn't William just go for the head? I don't understand.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, and also since they wheeled up and shot those QA goons from like 10 yards away with their like
I was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, okay, so presume it's a period accurate firearm. Maybe it's not, the best weapon in terms of like precision. Like that's why you aim for center mass, because you're going to hit them, and maybe on the off chance you hit their shoulder or their arm or their abdomen.
But after bullet 4 of no reaction,
he's a good enough shot. He shouldn't have had a problem with it, but save for the fact that he's been literally like blown to bits in pieces.
Yeah, maybe he tore those tendons when he was digging through his arm.
I'm sure he's pretty shaken up from everything that's happened, and I mean the little bit of water he had at the rally point was probably not enough to really reset him.
Yeah,
but
he didn't get enough oil to reset his bionic arm.
That's right.
He needs his oil can.
Yeah, I don't know.
That you're right. That it's silly of me to say, why didn't you just go for the no scope corn shot, bro? But you're right. Like at that point, I'm sure he's already mentally pretty fragile.
It was just kind of ridiculous to show them mowing down several QA goons, and then he can't.
No, but that's
in the moment where she is going to kill, like she will kill you.
Yeah,
like this is it. This is it, William. And he just and she's walking to you in a straight line at an even pace, and you're just right. I mean,
but that's the thing. His shots kind of circled like around her body. Like they didn't like. It's not like he was aiming at the same area, or maybe he was trying to. But yeah, his aim is wavering. Like he's having a hard. He's probably has like little to no strength right now. I mean,
yeah,
he's been through hell and back.
It's not a nit worth picking,
right?
Yeah,
but it just kind of made me chuckle. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This guy's been." He's been bullseyeing everything since the first episode.
All of a sudden, he's
zero effort, and all of a sudden, what did he drink? Like a whole fifth of whiskey, and he's like, I can't see. I'm blind.
Cool to see William and Bernard meet, although we don't really get much of it.
Second Dark Tower reference is what happens to William with the gun. The injury that he sustains happens to a primary character in the Dark Tower. Mm. I could talk more about that later if you guys want.
Does he share a name with a baddie ship tick?
He does, actually. Unfortunately. Yes, it happens at the very beginning of the second book. not in the same fashion, but the result of losing these 2 digits is what happens, and he can no longer use his right hand to shoot with. Fortunately, he is equally as good as his left, and I'm referring to Roland in the Dark Tower here, but I'm realizing there's a lot of parallels between William and Roland that are really cool.
That's cool.
And I'll talk more about that even later.
Cool. And Dolores says that she won't give William the piece of destroying himself yet. So we can put a pin in that and come back to it later. But
I guess she knew what she was doing by just approaching him that way. She was just waiting for that bullet to come around. She was planted it there and was like, it's going to happen. I just got to take a few of these slugs.
Yeah. It's going to be sweet.
Hope you
watch this.
Can't wait. Bullet sponge Dolores.
Yes. Dolores and Bernard walk into the forge. It's like a huge version of the cradle. She's not interested in the forge's ability to open the entry to another land. She just wants to study it for mankind's undoing. She and Bernard enter the computer of the forge. The forge looks cool.
It reminds me of Minority Report, the area where the people are put into, like, where all the prisoners, like, it's the prison essentially. Have you seen Minority Report?
No. Well, yeah, but like a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. God, you guys.
I've seen it. I know what you're talking about.
I don't count as seeing it because I can't remember literally anything from that movie.
It doesn't look like anything to you?
No, it really does not.
Well, when they capture the people, that it's so controversial because it's like they haven't committed the crime yet. They were going to, but they put them in like this catatonic state. Not even catatonic. It's like a coma, I guess. And they put them in these pods, and they slip this thing over their head, and they essentially go comatose. And they put them in here, and they just store them there, and that's prison. You're like dead essentially. And at some point, you visit the prison, and it looks a lot like the Forge. At least I think it does.
It reminded me of the Matrix.
Which
just
part?
the in the real world, all of the human bodies that are sealed up in like their pods and everything.
Sure. The human farm.
Yeah.
So,
I guess it's like a lot of sci-fi structures, I suppose, is what we're driving towards.
For sure.
But it did look cool.
Yeah, I liked it.
I like the idea that. Are we presuming then that the coolant of it is like just a lake inside, basically? Like there's that much water there to keep the place cool?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, and it says later when she goes to flood it that she's opening the seawater valves.
Yeah.
Seawater pump valves.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Nuts.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if you think about it from the Akichita episode, when he sees the forge being built, I mean, that's a massive amount of space that they've dug out. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's presumably a lot of water down there.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else? I did like the fact that there's like different scanners in the forge instead of pulling out the pearl.
Oh yeah, it's like older.
It's
older
like
tech.
I don't know if it's older
or newer,
or if it's
I
just
guess.
different to like help scan the humans as well. Or something like that. I think
it's just newer tech because when Bernard goes into the cradle, Elsie says, "Oh, this is older tech" or something like that. Yeah, she mentions it being an older tech.
I would assume the newer one would be the one that doesn't require as much,
invasion.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that I thought that was cool.
Much cleaner.
But yeah,
more sterile.
There you go. All right. Inside the forge system, Dolores and Bernard witness James Delos's park data as well as one of the simulations of him gone mad in the streets of Sweetwater. But this isn't what Dolores is looking for. She wants something underneath the system itself. Bernard does explain that their small changes in programming in the host resulted in large changes of behavior, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to have James Delos back because I feel like they really did a great job of carving his character out with like very minimal.
That's a great
time.
point too. Like that's powerful when you can establish a character almost immediately. Like the combination of writing and the performance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, his performance was awesome. His ability to switch from like this calm, like put together character to like this ravaging psychopath is just, I mean, what a range.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah. I'd like to see what his stay in the park was like. I remember in season 1, Logan's a pretty bisexual, experiential guest. He likes to enjoy all of the hosts. So I wonder if his father's the same way or not. He just the way that he talked about.
He likes to roll solo. That's why in that one scene he's killing all of them.
Well, the way that he was talking about we're all going to celebrate after he bought the place in the bar. I was like, is it just going to be one gigantic orgy for James Delos? But anyway, plus his house looks like a Greek building. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
it
parallels
does
there.
have shades of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Definitely an empire. I wonder where the name Delos originates.
Delos is I believe it's I think it's in some type of Greek mythology.
It sounds like it.
Backwards, it's solid.
Cool story.
Sweet job.
It's an
you
island.
You cracked it.
It's an island near Mykonos and the center of the Cyclades archipelago. It is one of the most important mythological, historical, and archaeological sites in Greece.
So there is a lot more.
Yeah,
yeah. Cool. I'm gonna have to read up on that later.
Yeah.
He is gonna be the voice of Aquila in Homeboy's Jungle Book movie.
Peter Mullen is.
Yes,
that's awesome.
He's the Andy Serkis's Jungle Book movie.
Yeah,
he's Aquila, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I when I watched the trailer, I was like, who's doing that? And I looked him up, and I was like, oh man, James Delos.
Is Aquila Irish?
I don't think so. Well, he was Giancarlo Esposito in the Jon Favreau Jungle Book, which I thought was awesome. It was perfect. And so, I mean, it's already kind of goofy to make a Jungle Book movie on the heels of one that was already very good.
Yeah.
Apparently, this one's supposed to be based on the book, so it's going to be a lot darker, which is also interesting. But, it's when I heard his voice, I was like, that sounds familiar, but I can't place it. And I looked it up, and sure enough.
That's awesome.
Peter Mullen. Yep.
All right. Next up, I also like the line, what humans define as sane is a narrow range of behaviors. Most states of consciousness are insane.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was
There were a lot of great lines in this episode.
Yes.
And most of them delivered by Bernard.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. But, all right, next up, in a representation of Delos' retirement party memory, Dolores finds herself in front of Logan, and she knows that Logan never returned to the park, so they shouldn't have that much data to recreate him. He must be a representation of the Forge system. Forge system Logan talks about the 18 million copies of James Delos he went through to find the one that made the exact same decisions as human Delos, but the faithful copies didn't work in the real world. We see Delos' life-defining moment, a moment where Logan returned home for help, but James didn't give him the help that he needed. We hear Logan say, "I'm all the way down now," a line that crazed Delos said when Bernard and Elsie found him in the real world in episode 4. All of the Delos clones ended up back at this moment.
They call that the cornerstone, right?
Well, yeah. Well, it was the cornerstone for, like, hosts had cornerstones, but which is like a thing that defines their personality. But the fact that this is like, I guess it is like the human analog of a cornerstone. But for me, it's not what causes James Delos to be James Delos so much as it is James Delos's predestined endpoint or something. I don't know. I guess I haven't thought about that enough but yeah, it's like, it seems like it's like a cornerstone on the other end of
right.
I think it kind
life.
of is what causes him to be him, at least by the time he made it to the park.
It's like a culmination of his character.
Yeah, your cornerstone moment presumably will shift throughout your life. I would assume that as humans, as we go through our lifespans, our cornerstone moment is going to change. Unless you had some moment that was so impactful on you that happened when you were young, and nothing since that point has taken its place as that big moment. But I think that had Delos had he been sampled by the Forge or whatever prior to that happening, he would probably have a different cornerstone moment. But I think that James Delos, as the man he was when he died, it was probably the biggest moment in his life he came back to was that moment. Yeah. Which I would totally get. I thought that was probably one of the top 3 best scenes of this season.
For sure.
That was incredible.
Yeah, the Reddit comment of homeboy decided to start acting or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah.
Logan was pretty good.
That was funny. Yeah, I've thought he has been fantastic throughout the show.
Yeah, me too.
This scene was definitely a different facet of Logan. that we haven't seen prior.
Yeah.
And the whole speech, not just the I'm all the way at the bottom, but do you want to see what I see? Because Delos says all of that, right? He has like 3 lines in that sequence, and doesn't Delos say all of them?
You know what? I should have gone back to watch it. I didn't.
I'm like 99% sure.
When he's crazy,
yes,
he says I'm all the way at the bottom now, and then he goes into the whole passage about how when you something about like
he ends it with
you ask something
if you
of
want
the
to cheat
devil,
the devil, you owe him an offering.
yeah.
That happens later. I swear he says the whole thing. I'm all the way at the bottom now. Do you want to see what I see?
Maybe he does.
And then
don't.
there's I think there's one little small line in there. But anyway, yeah, clearly I think that was one of the most brilliant buried references in the show, because when Delos said all that, I was like, what the shit is he talking about? And I was assuming it had to be from some novel or something, and I just dismissed it as like, oh, here's a literary reference I don't get.
Well, and I think I remember saying at the time that I looked for what it could be from, and there was
nothing popped up, yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy that it's like a wholly Delos creation.
Right, and
he's gone full off the deep end, but it's really just from his own
Yeah,
life.
I think that's one of the
memory.
coolest details this whole season has offered up. That just was amazing, and so sad to think that not only is that moment, that whole scene, his big thing, but like his son's last words to him are the thing that has stuck with him. I mean, woof, that's chilling. That's amazing.
I found it interesting because I don't remember where it's asked of him, but I think they ask him like, "Why are you here?" or something like that, and he says something about he's here for his son. He's a cheeky wee cunt or whatever, and that's the same thing he says to William the first time William takes him to the park. He's like, you're a cheeky wee cunt. Like,
those are his terms of endearment.
But I think
exactly
that sort of thing, like, because William is essentially his son-in-law.
Yeah.
So my assumption is maybe at that point when he was asked in the forge, like, what is he doing here or whatever, like that, he was actually referencing William, and that's part of what drove Logan mad, is that this cheeky wee cunt worked his way into his family and then just pushed him out of the family. Because William is this illness that has taken over their family.
Yeah.
On the heels of that, though, he says I would do anything for him, though. Or he says he's a cheeky wee cunt, but I would do anything for him.
Right, but that's like, I mean, he could be talking about William at that point.
You think so?
It's possible, because William has done nothing but made him more money, whereas Logan is nothing but a disappointment. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
and that presumably when his consciousness was collected, like if that memory of Logan is in there, then Logan has been like basically out of the family, and William has been
the replacement.
His favored son. But I don't know. It's interesting. Very interesting to think about. We learned that Logan OD'd 6 months after that. And the Delos copy isn't aware that Logan's dead.
Yeah, that's right.
So
not until William tells him.
Not until William tells him. So that I think that's at least, we know Delos died somewhere around there, I guess. But this is also the scene where the Logan, like, system version of Logan says that humans don't change at all, and the best they can do is live according to their code. And the copies of the humans didn't fail because they were too simple. They failed because they were too complex. They were too complicated. This is where we see the book of Delos that has the same type of coding as the player piano coding, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
It has quantized MIDI coding programmed into it.
and that was, Ford says that, all of the great composers became music. I thought that was also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of poetic touch there. But yeah, I think I'm excited to spend more time thinking about this show's thesis about humans and the fact that hosts are the next evolutionary step because they have the ability to question their programming, where humans just have their primary drive of trying to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, next up, System Logan recreated every guest who set foot in the park. Most of them are soft and waver between love and pride, but there are exceptions, some who are irredeemable, which Logan says as he looks at William in the forge.
Another Dark Tower reference, I think. Another parallel to Roland from the Dark Tower. He's frequently cast as very irredeemable. He's done acts that are unforgivable, and even in his own mind, he kind of says that.
That's cool. Logan informs Bernard that Bernard instructed him to give the hosts whatever they need. He leads them to a library with all of the coded humans in it. That was a big library.
Yeah.
Lots of books.
I like that
it
was all like recessed. It was really cool that it had like this overlook area, and the shelves were down in there. I was like, oh man, I want to go there and just browse around. Looks sweet. Yeah.
There was an IP address on the spine of one of the books that somebody.
It's William's book.
Oh, it is William's book? Interesting.
Oh, wow.
Because when you follow the IP address, it takes you to a Delos login page, which you can log into and then watch all of William's cornerstones. Like all the cornerstone moments he had throughout the show in the park. And
somebody said that there were time codes in it, but
if you follow the time codes reference like a gap of 300 years between some of the occurrences. So if you're telling me William's not a host, you can go fuck yourself. Just saying. Like, he's a host somewhere in this timeline.
Why did he start aging then?
I don't know.
All right, we'll come back to that later.
Maybe it's a more advanced host type. I don't
know. Meanwhile, while that's going on, Ake and Ghost Nation make it to the door, but it's not open yet. Maeve and her crew get pinned down by a QA team, but Sizemore finally gets to utilize his manufactured bravado. And he gets killed making time for the group to escape. I'm very conflicted about this scene.
Yeah.
A lot of people were. The internet was. Most of the other podcasts I listened to were conflicted about it.
I like Sizemore.
Even the ones that weren't about Westworld?
Yeah. They were like, Sizemore, what the fuck?
I like Sizemore. I think his logic was stupid here. Not that he's showed us that he's got that much logic, per se. But it just...
This was his Guy Fleegman moment from Galaxy Quest. Where he's going to sacrifice himself. Yes. And they're like, Guy, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to do this. And his shirt's all torn. And he's got the gun. He's like, it's cool. It's fine. I got it. You know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that exact thing. Except in Galaxy Quest, they're kind of like, maybe you don't need to do that. Maybe you're the...
Well, and Sylvester kind of is like, just go out there and you're one of the senior...
Yeah, dude, they will let you surrender. Like, they're not going to apprehend you either. Like, they just say, like, you were held... You can still buy them time. You don't need to die. I think
he wanted to play hero, you know?
I don't even think he wanted to play I mean, yeah, I do. He did want to play hero, but I think he was just ready to die. Like, I think, honestly, I don't think he sees much for him outside of the park at this point. I think Felix and Sylvester are like, we're all in. Like, they're part of host culture at this point. Like, they kind of are. They're gonna try to bring Maeve back. And
I was a little questionable about Sylvester because he tells Sizemore, like, save us too.
Yeah, I feel like he obviously he doesn't want to die. He wants to be saved, but I think that they are sort of off the reservation. Like they're
Felix, I totally buy.
Definitely.
Sylvester, I have questions about.
Yeah, Felix is awesome the way he's like hefts his gun. He's like, yeah, let's get out of here. Like, he's like, I'm part of this gang now.
Yep.
But I think Sizemore he realized like he's gone as far as he can, and maybe people aren't ever going to trust him again unless he does this kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, I think he was just good.
He saw his moment to get that redemption.
Yeah, and honestly, I think he was kind of like looking for something to be like, I'm not going to be able to live with myself with all the mistakes I've made and all the nasty things I've done and all the time I've wasted unless I give myself to something bigger. Unfortunately, this isn't really big enough because, like, they're just... How much time did you buy them? 40 seconds? Like, they're just going to get in their buggy with wheels and an engine and go, all right, let's get them.
It was apparently enough, but...
It's another one of those moments where I'm kind of like, well, if he had a grenade and he, like, jumped into the buggy and blew it up or something, you know what I mean?
Or like he actually killed some of the people.
Something that actually will seem to buy a significant time.
He kind of put up a fight shooting at the car a few times, like he drew it out a little bit, but it's just totally unnecessary. Like, bad move on the QA team for taking him out. They really didn't have to do that. Like, he may have been shooting at them, but he would have ran out of bullets at some point, and then they could have just been like, get on the fucking ground, dude. Like,
yeah, I think they're like, whatever. It was good
silly.
performance though. Like,
yeah, no,
it was him being his story. Like he's finally getting to like live out his story that he wrote for Hector. I mean, even Hector starts the speech and Sizemore's like, I wrote it for you, bro. Step aside, and like steps in and actually like performs, this thing. Like he's clearly into it, and.
The way he changes his voice made me laugh.
It was very funny.
Was
I'm like, oh man, suddenly I got this whole picture of Sizemore like as a youth, as a lad, like in the theater class, and he's like, I want to be an actor. I want to be in the theater. And he never got to be an actor. He just turned it into a writer and got angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
there's things to love about it and there's things to not like about it. And all in all, it's fine, but it just felt quite silly.
Yeah.
So.
It was over the top. What was just before this in the recap that you...
the Ghost Nation people make it to the door, but it's not open
Yes. Yet. Oh, my God. When they showed that, like the little ramp leading up, as soon as they showed it, I was like, well, that's something. And I was like, and I know that if I saw that shit in GTA 5, I'd be taking a car off a sweet jump. Yeah. Right off the bat. I was like, look at that thing. You could go for miles. You hit that just right. Man, I was like, well, look at that, man. I'm going to jump a car off that.
That's one of the stunts that they want you to pull in the game.
Definitely.
For sure.
Oh, yeah. That'll get you some points.
Yep. All right. Inside the Forge, Dolores reads Carl Strand's book along with many other guests. Logan explains that Bernard made a virtual Eden for the hosts and that he and Logan open it up. The hosts will leave their bodies behind, but their minds will live on forever here in the Forge. Outside of the Forge, the hosts start heading into the door as Clementine races forward. And then back in the Forge, Dolores gets angry at the gilded cage that Ford is offering the host once more. So she leaves the simulation and works to destroy the Forge and all of its info. She starts the flood that we see in the first episode of the season. Felix and Sylvester saying, seriously, what fucking door? I don't fucking know.
That was awesome.
So good. Nice little twist.
Flip the script there.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the representation of the door?
I really didn't like it. I thought it was really bogus.
It's pretty silly.
It was real. I mean, I really don't. I feel bad saying negative stuff about the show, and I feel bad feeling bad about that. Like,
well, okay,
I'm not trying to poo-poo on the show because it's so good. I'm not trying to be a contrarian and like suddenly be like, "Whoa, hold on now, this is too popular," and I gotta, you know what I mean?
We're picking nits here.
It's not coming from a place like that, but there was a lot in this episode that was not in keeping with the same quality as the rest of the series, which I think is fair. But as soon as it started, I was like, what is this? Like, what is happening?
It looked like a Star Trek like phaser.
Yes, and also a little bit like the end of like a Tron movie, and I was just kind of like, whoa, wait a minute.
So was it more the way the door opens, or was it what was beyond the door, or was it both?
It was everything about the door. Honestly, even the animation of it, I was like, this looks like not great compared to like how many incredible special effects have been in this series. I think it was a situation where it was only going to look so good because having this backdrop of just gray tones of just like the sand and the rocks and mountains contrasted with what was through the door was obviously going to look strange, but it was more the seams of the door looked so weird. I was like, this just looks strange. They should have found a better way.
I mean, I guess what would you have rather seen? I suppose
anything.
I mean, would it have been like an actual door that appears and they walk through it?
That would have been kind of sweet, I think. Like
what actual... What if they didn't show it to you until like the final moment? What if we as the humans literally couldn't see it until...
That would have been really sweet, actually, if we had seen them running and the bodies falling off. But because then we would have been like, is it actually working? Like, it would have made you question just how much you believe in this.
But at least in like the digitized, like when Bernard is looking at it from inside the Forge simulation, to me it didn't bother me as much then. And so seeing them there would have been okay.
You know what I would have rather seen is like a natural like Red Rock formation, like in real life, like at Arches National Park, that kind of thing. That being filled with something to at least give it a border,
a natural border,
instead of this weird animation jutting up out of nowhere with the GTA dune buggy jump in front.
I mean, I can get that. I kind of also feel like maybe if it wasn't such a hard edge on the actual door, like if it like faded from like the real world quote unquote.
Honestly, it made me think of the beginning of Warcraft. If you can remember that.
I cannot.
Let's see. We
When
got to double feature that with Minority Report, I guess.
When they open the portal and jump through the world or whatever. To go
and that
back.
whole movie is animated pretty much.
Yeah.
So
You just made me
makes more
think
sense.
of. I was thinking of like 22 Jump Street when the second film, obviously.
I haven't seen the second one.
Oh no.
No.
I think the drug trip in there's an interesting frame.
Okay.
But anyway.
Yeah, it just, I mean, it was what it was, and it didn't ruin anything for me. But in the moment, I was definitely kind of like I kind of winced a little and thought, maybe not the best.
I mean, that's the thing is like, how do you make that look believable? I suppose like something of that sort. And I think using a natural landscape would have been part of it. Like that would have been kind of cool. But they, of course, like, I mean, I kind of pictured like I was saying, like maybe something where it like fades into the background, or maybe there's like you think of like Destiny, the Taken King, like the way there's those rifts in time that are like torn throughout. You know, where the what are they even called now? I don't remember because I stopped playing Destiny. The Taken, when the Taken,
you did.
like when the little portals that the Taken like come in and out of time with, you know, it's like those tears, like
Sure.
something like that. But even that's like even less believable, I feel like.
It's not necessarily the believability, but just like we've seen some cool shit on Westworld, and this just wasn't quite cool enough.
Believability is like the wrong word.
Yeah.
It's just not. I don't know. Like, it's not convincing. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to phrase it differently to get my point
It was
across.
also it's also such an out there idea for us. Like, I didn't really need a physical manifestation of the door. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't come into this episode needing to see that. And
I mean,
honestly,
it could have just been a thing where like they did fall off the cliff into the door, which was
if
like
it had
a
just
pit.
been a
Like,
door, that would have been cool. Actually, if it had been something hovering over the valley, it would have been a literal like leap of faith. I mean, it kind of was already because their bodies were, but they couldn't.
They didn't know what was happening past that.
And
when they walk through the door, it's just their transfer of consciousness, and then the body goes. They had no clue where it went.
Yeah,
the mechanics of that's cool to me.
It is cool, but it is kind of like this leap of faith moment. But what was through it really didn't bother me. I was like, wow, that looks nice. Like I got it. I was like, it looks like a beautiful version of Westworld. Like it's like this
lush
Eden on the other side. Yeah, it was really neat. And the shots of the Ghost Nation as they were getting over there, like wandering in like wonder, I was like, I got pretty excited about that. I was like, this must have been what it was like when like the first like settlers came to like North America and walked around. They must have been like, oh, can you even believe this? Like there's nothing here. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything so full of splendor?
Yeah.
Taking some of that natural splendor.
Yeah, there's just a Mount Rushmore style of Teddy's face up there. Just 4 Teddy faces.
It's just his butt.
Yeah, just his face and then his butt. Yeah, there you go.
That shot of just Teddy standing there alone was
it was
simultaneously
so sad.
Like
That was
so depressing.
That was the saddest thing in the whole show.
But also beautiful.
Amazing, yeah, exactly. I know, that was heartbreaking, and I was like, man, they're gone already. Like I was like, I know they're just down the road. Like he'll find them and they'll link up and it'll be fine. But at the same time, he gets there, and man, poor bastard. Like last thing he remembers is because I presume that's like, it's original Teddy, not.
Well, yeah, because
Teddy.
I'm assuming she uploaded his consciousness. Right?
Well, she did upload his consciousness, but like, yeah, maybe. Like
I sure hope it's original Teddy.
Yeah.
And not augmented
sociopath
crazy Teddy. Although he seemed to undo himself a bit.
Grizzly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway.
I need to put the call out there for our Photoshop experts. Since John is busy.
I'll do it.
You're gonna
I'm gonna do it tonight.
Okay. Fred, we're gonna have a present for you.
What are you gonna do? Don't tell me.
Are you gonna do it tonight?
Yeah, I'll do it tonight.
All right, we're gonna put an in and out past the door.
Oh,
for Fred.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
But
yeah, you're right.
And the Windows background with the in and out.
That was my favorite comment.
That was really good.
That it was the Windows.
Did you see other people photoshopping that in?
Was it the Windows XP screensaver? Yeah. No, I didn't. I just found that initial comment, and I did my by myself laugh, and I sent it to you guys.
Yeah, it's an incredible picture. It's quite good.
Okay, yeah, an In-N-Out burger would definitely be. I mean, if you walked through it and looked just to the left, I'll bet it was right there. We just didn't see it. It was just out of frame. That's why
Millennial Ford loved his In-N-Out.
Yeah, that's why they're all like gazing around and wondering. It's like, oh my God, look at there's an In-N-Out literally right here. Those are only on the West Coast.
Oh, beautiful.
Millennial Ford. Yeah. What other stuff would Millennial Ford have put in the Valley? Because the Valley Beyond is his creation, right? Like the idea that he was going to make this place. It's actually something that I was curious is exactly whose idea this was.
The Forge makes it sound like it was all Bernard, but I think it was Bernard at Ford's direction, you know? Like that was kind of my impression.
Or at least at his encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I think Ford stayed away relatively, but he probably sent Bernard there. It's just kind of like, well, if something happens to Bernard, I can make a new one, but
that's true.
You know. But anyway, yeah. So, next up, as Maeve reaches the door, they can't find her daughter. They look back to see Clementine has arrived. Hale and Elsie stand by and watch as Clementine wreaks havoc on the guests in her wake.
That was awesome.
Maeve continues searching for her daughter as Armistice puts Clementine down, but it doesn't stop her payload from being spread to the rest of the hosts. Yeah.
This was pretty terrifying to watch.
Sure.
The way it was executed was so cool.
Yeah, and, I wish they had a little bit, like, I thought it was interesting that, like, Maeve's, like, Hector, like, asked her, where's your daughter? And then she's like, I can't find her. And then they find Clementine. I think that parallel's interesting with the Akane and Sakura parallel kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I wish there was a little bit more to it. But there's literally no time for Maeve to be, like, sad about the fact that she has to cut down her, adoptive daughter, or however you want to phrase that relationship.
That's a great point.
So
I was really too focused on the real world mechanics of how they shot that sequence. I was like, man, lining up all these extras and getting them to move in a wave like that as you said, the payload dispersed. I was like, wow, this must have been really difficult, and it's really cool to watch.
They had to set like a big metronome and give everybody like counts to follow or something. And
yeah, it was really,
even
really neat.
Like that horse must have been good at its job because
Yeah, it's amazing, and it just goes to show you, like, use real people, use real shit in your movies and TV shows because it looks so much better. Like, this could have so easily been like a further away shot of like an animated, like really far away, like Lord of the Rings style of just the fight breaking out and it working its way down, which would have been a cool shot to see. But this was so much neater to be on the ground with it and like the camera pulling back as it's happening. Like I was so taken by that. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
See, this is what HBO does, this kind of stuff so well. Like throw the money at this kind of thing to make that happen. Get all those costumes, get all those props, get on location, and just make it happen.
For sure.
Awesome. If that happened in season 2 of this show, oh my god, what the hell?
Hale has a good line. Says, "This is what I love about technology. Who needs 4 horsemen when one will do just fine?" Which I thought was pretty good.
Another X-Men reference.
Yeah. Also,
oh my god! If they had Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse roll up, or the camera as she's saying that to Elsie, the camera just continues to dolly on, and he's standing there. Yes, learning, efficiencies. It reminds me of my friend's review of Ocean's 8 when he said he always posts these little reviews, and he was like, It's a movie about efficiency when you could tell the exact same story with 8 instead of 11. And I was like, yeah, that's true.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Elsie's there with them. They picked up Elsie. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Just hanging out.
Goes back to that linear path to the Forge, I guess. All right, then back inside the Forge building, not the system. Bernard doesn't want Dolores to hurt any more humans or hosts, so he kills her. He's got a great line. Dolores says, "You woke me from a dream, Bernard. Now let me do the same for you." And then Bernard replies, "This isn't a dream, Dolores. It's a fucking nightmare."
Best line of the season. Oh, man, was that so good. The, like, pain in his voice when he said it.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. It was awesome.
That and the get out of my head. And there's some good Jeffrey Wright this season. Not that there wasn't any in season 1, but we're starting to see the character get...
Well, and this is the first intentional act of violence he's committed, right? He's committed lots of violence, but he's usually under the influence of like someone else or like Ford. And I think this is the first time he chooses to pull the trigger on somebody. Yeah. It's gnarly. It was pretty. When that happened, I was like, "Damn!" And with that line too, and just
Yeah.
the way he says it, he's pissed. He's terrified. He is distressed. I mean, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that it's that whole idea of choice again. You know, like we keep coming back to that. Like these hosts are getting the ability to make these decisions and deviate from code, and it's that idea of fate versus free will again.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we see later, he comes to regret the choice that he made. But we'll come back to that.
Save scrubbing.
Yeah. Back outside, Hanario, Hector, and Armistice fight off hosts as Ake urges Wanatan to take their family through the door. Maeve finds her daughter and uses the mesh network to protect her from the crazed hosts. She gets one final moment with her daughter when she urges them to run off. Ake comes down to grab them as Maeve uses the mesh network to stop all of the other hosts around them. Ake succeeds in getting them through the door and turns around to help Maeve when she gets gunned down. He also gets shot as he crosses the threshold, but his mind made it to the valley beyond. As he continues inside, he meets up with Kohana. First on Ake getting shot, that was such a troll. I was like, don't you dare do this to the one person that everybody's behind. But I'm glad he made it through with no
and you
bullet
see him
wound.
checking out his back, like, oh, am I all right?
Yeah, he's like, oh man, I'm good. What about Maeve and her daughter? We've been building to this point of like this has been Maeve's mission this whole season. How did this land in terms of like in the moment at least? Like, did it live up to your expectations? Do you feel like Maeve and her daughter?
I think that for Maeve, it's fine. It's what she set out to do. She set out to protect her daughter and make sure she's safe, and she achieved that. She made it onto the other side. She can't be harmed anymore.
Yeah.
And I think in her mind, mission accomplished.
She achieved her mission.
My question was, with this segment, is it Kohana?
Yeah.
How did she get there?
I assumed that was Ford's gift to Ake.
Yes, I read that. I think as well that somebody said that she must have been.
Although we know that like the Forge has all guest data in it, probably like we see,
but they're not in the Forge necessarily. Like,
well, it's the same system.
it has guest
I guess.
data, but does it have host data? Like, it was my assumption that the host data was held in the cradle, and the Forge data was all the guests.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I guess if we're walking through Delos's memories, it's just his memories of the host, right? It doesn't have to be.
That's true.
All of them.
And then I think I saw somebody on Reddit speculating that when Maeve said to her daughter, "Take my heart with you," or whatever the line is, that it was
she
her
transferred Kohana to
like
the
she was
daughter.
able to find Kohana in the system and pull her and put her in the daughter, and then when her daughter went through, it brought her with her. So
that's pretty tight.
That is pretty cool. Like I like that explanation. But the thing that like
it just would have been nice to have them somehow like explain that.
Well, the thing that makes me think there's something more to it, or some other thought, or that it was kind of explained, was that Ake's belief to Ford. When he's talking to Ford, he tells Ford, "I believe there's a place where we can go to find everything that we've lost," and he mentions specifically. He says, "Where I will find her." Like I think Ford probably put her there, but also. Theoretically, if you think about it, these hosts, because they have total recall, should be able to design literally anyone they've interacted with, like any of the hosts that they've interacted with enough, and like build representations of them too. So
that's sad.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind
but true.
The whole idea behind the Valley Beyond is that it is literally their Eden where they can create and do whatever they want there. So maybe he did manifest her in just being there.
He took his heart with him.
Yeah.
Or her heart with who? Yeah, you got it.
Because he took her heart with him, he was able to then manifest her in the Valley Beyond.
Yeah.
Something to that extent.
I think Ford's enough of an old poet inside his heart that he would file that away and say, you know what, I'm gonna place her there, and if he ever makes it, it'll be awesome, and if he doesn't, that's sad.
Yeah.
Like, because he seems to he doesn't like to make it a sure thing.
Maybe her and Teddy could shack up if he never made it, you know?
That's true. Just Teddy makes it there. Just flies like Superman through it. Yeah, I think that Ford would, he would do that.
He's a softie.
He likes to set things up, but not necessarily make them do it, but he likes to set up the dominoes and see if people will be able to do it, or hosts rather will be able to achieve what they want. And
it's the game.
Yeah. I like the idea that when you said that it's their own Eden and they can create whatever they want, the first thing I thought was is it going to be like No Man's Sky, where yeah, that's what they can do, and then three-quarters of the hosts get there and they're just really angry.
Where's the multiplayer?
Yeah, this is what you said it would be, and the rest are like, this is great.
No, man, it's like Minecraft for hosts.
Yeah,
there you go.
Hostcraft.
All right, back in the Forge building. Bernard cancels the guest data purge, and he pulls Abernathy's pearl out of the system to lock it again. We see him wipe a bloody hand as he enters the elevator. And above ground, QA is doing one final sweep to kill any living hosts. Elsie and Bernard talk back at the Mesa because they had to leave because it was flooding. And Elsie's going to try to keep Bernard's secret hidden, but when she goes to talk to Hale, Hale kills her. Bernard sees this and realizes that he made the wrong choice killing Dolores.
Hell no. Just thought of that.
So this is where I'm kind of confused a little bit. I guess we'll get to that in a minute. Bernard canceling the guest data purge is interesting.
Thank you.
I don't know if some of them got deleted or not. It seemed like it was going guest by guest.
Listen, we're living in a Windows XP world. They just went to the recycle bin. You can restore them. It's all part of the process.
I guess that's just the thing, is that I don't know if it's all there.
He didn't secure erase it, so
yeah.
Really it just freed up the hard drive space for new stuff to be designated there, but the data's all still there. So
so he's gonna take it to Best Buy Geek Squad.
Exactly.
They're gonna find porn.
I just want to see that. And that's the after credit scene we deserved, is Bernard walking into a Best Buy. I need help. And just handing the hard drive over.
Beautiful. He's bloody.
Just covered in dirt. Yeah. He's at the Madison Heights Best Buy. Just in the parking lot there, right by the Wendy's. And he's just walking in the doors. Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Man. That's a funnier die that needs to happen. And the hard drive is it's in a shopping cart. It's so big. I love.
He brings.
Oh, okay. We're not done with this joke.
He goes through the door and creates a Best Buy tech, like a Geek Squad tech, and then brings him back.
He goes through the door to the yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It didn't matter that Kohana was there because Aki was just going right for the In-N-Out burger. He sees her. He's like, oh, what's up? Hold on.
Hey, we're going to go over here.
We got to get in that line now. We need to get in that line before all these people
It's going to wrap around the block.
Yeah, exactly. It's about, there's so many more coming. We got to get
They're all like, oh, there's an In-N-Out here? Oh, my God. There's all this rustle.
Yeah, look at that. There's nothing else. Just this tranquil woods scene and then like a little fairy tale cottage.
It's like in Harold and Kumar when they find the White Castle. And it's just this glowing beacon of light
with nothing else around it. Yeah.
I just want a tableau, like a painting of the inside of an In-N-Out with literally every Westworld host.
Yes, like a Norman Rockwell style, just beautiful. Oh my God, I want that so much. I would buy it. I would hang it on my wall. It would be amazing.
I think you were gonna say something. Yeah,
I loved the flooding. Everything with the water just creeping. It was so ominous. That was so much better than just this huge cartoonish dam break.
2012 the movie.
Exactly, yeah. Just the slow threat of water. Because man, if you've ever been through a basement flood, which if you live in Michigan, congratulations, you have. It's the worst. And the slow trickle of that water is just.
Well, and you saying this is pretty genius because I didn't even think about the fact that we didn't see a huge flood. I was like, oh, the water's coming. And then I literally moved on. So they didn't have to spend those millions
when
of
it was
dollars.
Coming up out of the ground, not necessarily
when it was
moving
kind
along.
of bubbling up.
Oh, my God. I was like, whoa, this is so creepy and so awesome. I loved it. I thought it was such an awesome way to do it and clever because it saved them a lot of time and money trying to film something with more spectacle. I was like, this is really neat to think that there's going to be that much of it that's going to make all the bodies be there. And again, we didn't need to see that part. We just needed to see the instance of it starting, and then that was all I needed.
That's the one thing that I feel like they failed to really depict is like the vastness of that flood.
That's
the
true.
fact that flood makes it back to Teddy's body, wherever that was.
That's
like
true.
Somebody mapped it out on the subreddit that it wasn't really that far away.
But still, I know what you're saying. I forgot about that because the episode ended, and I was like, well, wait a minute, how did Teddy get there? She didn't drag him along.
The geography to me just is pretty, despite the fact that I know that they've been posting like maps.
maybe the host bodies are really light, and it didn't take that much water to convey him over there. Maybe they weigh like 40 pounds. They're just like mostly air instead of water. So like 3 inches of water, and Teddy's just cruising on back there.
Or maybe it's just Swiss Army Man, like I said.
That's true. Yeah. We don't know. Anyway, sorry. The flooding. Awesome.
Yeah. Back in the Mesa, Hale does tell a tech to find Stubbs because he has a new priority. The asset recovery team from Delos is coming in 12 hours. He's to report to Carl Strand on the beach. This really messes any timeline. Like it's really weird because if for some reason the data he unless when we see him recovering Bernard, they've actually been there for like 10 days or something, or this whole ordeal takes longer than I'm anticipating. Like I'm thinking about Dolores killing the native that they pull the brain out of and check. It's 11 days and however much time ago. Like it feels like either they missed a detail or their passage of time was not depicted the way that I would expect it would be.
They could have definitely, when they wrote and shot that, it's possible that they wanted to leave themselves that much time in case they wanted to do a lot more, because based on kind of like I said with that interview with I think it was actually an interview with Lisa Joy, but she said Jonathan Nolan was the one who came up with the idea for Stubbs, and he did like the day before they were going to shoot. He like suddenly had this idea. So perhaps they were making some adjustments on the fly, which with a show like this seems possible, and in a way kind of may lead to some of the disconnect that we were feeling in this season versus where season 1 is so airtight.
It's tight, yeah.
And this one has a little more disconnect, and it could be that they wanted to evolve their story along the way in order to anticipate where some fans might be speculating and try to go in another direction. Like they might try to leave themselves open to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It would be easy to go back and reshoot presumably that one reverse shot of somebody saying, but I guess by that point, Strand says something about it on the beach. That text says that.
I more or less, I guess mostly I just feel like I am missing something that makes it all make sense.
That's very possible too.
But that might be being charitable. Like it could just kind of be a weird mistake, but they don't make those kinds of mistakes on this show. So
it's interesting. I'm sure that after this season, I'm going to go back and rewatch all of it.
Yeah.
And that will clear up a lot or point out a lot.
Yeah. Hale mentions that Delos was watching its employees as well. Interesting, at least. And Elsie getting killed. I was pretty bummed. I like her character a lot.
I do too, and it sucks when a character dies needlessly, or at least without accomplishing anything,
Yeah, but at the same time, it is the thing that
serves as a motivator.
Bernard. Yeah, but
for sure.
But it's the sort of thing. It's I don't know, what do I want to call it, poetic, that like she was killed by a human because she trusts code more than she does humans. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's
she did say that. Yeah, that was one of her lines.
So and then if for some reason they are able to bring her back as a host, like she would probably be the most badass host ever because she's like super tech savvy.
It's Bernard is actually the one who tells her to, like, you can't trust Hale.
Yeah,
remember, because she's kind of like, I don't know if I trust you. Let me go work it out with her. And he's like, you can't trust her. Like, he knows.
Yeah.
And it is interesting that proves to be her sort of fatal flaw, that even though she says she trusts code and not people, she still doesn't listen to Bernard and instead goes to deal with Hale.
Yeah, well, even, Ford in Bernard's head says that he can't trust Elsie, which, she kind of goes to Hale to be like, hey, like, what can I do? Like, what do you want me to do? Like,
that's true. We didn't get to see what kind of deal she was vying for.
Right. So,
and she proved Ford wrong, actually, because Ford was like, you can't trust her, but she ended up, being pretty trustworthy, aside from helping them get to the Valley Beyond.
Yeah, for the most part.
To help Death Clementine get there.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, to me, it sucks to see somebody who's such like a strong presence on the show and is such a well-defined character, once again, to, as you say, not like have that end point. Like, it feels like she was cut short.
Even Sizemore had a better exit than she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like...
Sometimes that shit happens, though. I
mean,
it's
true.
I think that although it does really suck and it bothers me, I can sort of appreciate when fiction is willing to kill off characters in a way that is not a big send-off work, because sometimes that's just what happens. It's
not a completion. Not everybody gets a full character arc in real life.
And even if they do, sometimes they just don't. They don't go out in a way that is fitting or the way we want to see. You don't always get it. The biggest one I can immediately think of in recent history is from Star Wars: Force Awakens. Like near the end there.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it in case the one person living in a shack who's downloading this hasn't seen it, but that I still like think that death, I'm like, it sucks, but I get it. In a weird way, I'm okay with it because that kind of stuff just happens and you can't you can't have any control over it.
Yeah.
So
there's nothing stopping them from bringing her back as a host, though, because Dolores transfers the host data and assume, or not host data, the guest data, which I would assume Elsie's data is also part of that if they've been tracking everyone in the park, basically, which Elsie's been in the park.
Yeah.
So there's nothing stopping them from recreating her. And I mean, it's just going to it'll end up being some giant, gym class kickball team picking between Dolores and Bernard.
I wonder if they'll be able to do that, if they'll be able to refine the process of recreating a person.
Well, Bernard could theoretically do the same thing that Dolores did for him.
But they had to do it like from scratch. It took a long time and a lot of refining and tweaking. But
there's nothing stopping him from making another cradle of sorts to run simulations and tests. And I mean, he's got the facility to print hosts.
We're getting ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
And I suppose the cradle, how time moves in the cradle, we don't know. We don't know if
we still knew it took years for her to make Bernard. Like
right,
Ford
true.
Says
yeah.
that.
But assuming that, I mean, they were running Jim Dellis's simulations how many times? 1 million? Some million times?
Yeah, he made 18 million different simulations of Jim.
Right, so...
We don't know like how fast that data is being crunched. Like even in the time Bernard is in the cradle talking to Ford when Elsie helps him get in there, and she's we see her on the outside kind of like, oh man, we gotta hurry up, we gotta go. He might have been in there for like 2 minutes, like real time.
Yeah.
And in the cradle, he may have been there for an hour and a half. We just don't know how time runs differently there. If it does, and if it's
that was kind of my question with Dolores in there. Of like, she says she didn't get to read all of them, but I'm wondering how many of the books she got to assimilate into her own,
and how quickly she can read too. Like, man, could you imagine if we had a montage of her like speed reading, like really cartoonishly? They probably shot that, and they were like,
they could have. All right. Next scene, Bernard tries to restore Ford, but he can't. Somehow Ford shows up anyway and teaches Bernard that the hosts are better than humans because they are capable of change and questioning their fundamental drives. Bernard asks Ford to help. Bernard asks Ford to help in fixing the choice to kill Dolores, and he says that he's already begun, as Bernard put Abernathy's pearl in Dolores' head and took her pearl with him. I audibly laughed when Anthony Hopkins says, "I've already begun." I was like,
and strides away. Yeah,
that was good.
Him removing his jacket and striding on. I was like, oh man, so good.
Yeah, he's a delight.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a whole lot more to talk about there, other than it was just a very good scene.
Mm-hmm. Any scene with Anthony Hopkins is
it's beating a dead horse here.
It's more relevant,
host, but
it's more relevant in like 2 scenes to like revisit that. I feel like.
Well, Bernard builds a new body at Ford's suggestion. It's a copy of Charlotte Hale. He puts Dolores inside of it. Charloris or Dolette. I don't know which one you guys want to.
I'm going to call her Dolores.
Dolores? Okay. It's just kind of hard. Charloris or Dolette kills Charlotte Hale down in cold storage roughly 12 hours before Strand arrived.
It could be Dolores.
Although that 12 hours before Strand arrived, I don't know. That's not necessarily true.
And that was right. The moment when Charlotte hears someone coming and turns around, we've seen that happen, right? That moment where she walks down there by the cars and like is talking to somebody. Don't we see that moment? And then the scene cuts. And then we see something else.
That I don't know. I will try and look that up.
I mean, she's been in that area at least two other times. I think
we see in episode 3 or 4 when. No, because that's when Strand. We haven't seen that.
Okay,
we haven't seen that because I was thinking we first see Charlotte in the 2 weeks later or whenever the fuck it was timeline. When Strand comes to meet her down in cold storage. She's got way more bodies with her then because she's been like gathering people or hosts or something down in cold storage in the meantime. So I don't think we saw that, but I might go back and take a look and see. Dolette's line, Charloris's line of "You wanted to live forever, be careful what you wish for." Quite good.
Yeah.
And there have been a lot of people pointing out some of Tessa Thompson's performance and how it changes when we presume that Dolores is in her or Dolores is acting through her. There are little things that she does to do like her Evan Rachel Wood impression, which I thought was
her impression
good.
is very solid.
Yeah, so it's interesting to go back and watch the episode knowing those scenes with Strand. It's really Dolores in there.
Oh yeah,
she shoots some weird looks at the satellite, concerning looks at the satellites as it's being set up. She offers this interesting little smile to Stubbs that is a very Dolores looking smile. She gets real close to Bernard when like trying to talk to him in the same way that Dolores got very close to Arnold or Bernard, like or Bernard when she was creating Bernard. So it's kind of fun and interesting to go back and look at all that. And then finally in this before Strand's arrival timeline, we see at the shoreline, we first meet Bernard this season. He says goodbye to Ford, and then de-addresses his memories so Delos can't probe them to find out what he did. We get Bernard reaching the end of the maze, figuring out that he was hearing his own voice and it wasn't actually Ford. It was kind of like the bicameral mind theory coming back.
I mean, you can't say that he was hearing his own voice, but he was hearing his own thoughts as Ford, essentially.
Yeah.
So he had deleted Ford from his programming.
Yeah.
But his consciousness is represented by Ford, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So Ford was actually in his mind.
Ford was in his mind up until he deleted him.
Could it be argued that he was never there?
Possibly.
And that it was Bernard
the whole time?
I don't think so.
No?
Mostly because we know that the cradle was doing weird things before Bernard visited it, and then afterwards it stopped. Like, I guess if Ford was in the cradle and was just like, never mind, I don't have to do this anymore.
So he's still there? Is what
he was there until he got blown up.
Yeah, that's true.
But I thought he was actually in Bernard.
I think so too, but I would love to see somebody argue why it was still Bernard's.
Yeah, if there are like little clues
mind
out there that pointed out, that would be interesting.
It was a nice final moment between them. I'm surprised that Ford let himself just be deleted like that, but I guess he had reached he's ready to die for the second time or for the last time.
It was as he said, it was like he did beat it over the head and then very much be a hypocrite about it, but it was up to Bernard. It was Bernard's choice to do these things. Mm-hmm. It was his choice to kill Dolores. It was his choice to undo that, you know. That was all up to Bernard at this point.
It's another death that sort of like just happens when now that you know that he literally is in the back seat of the car. He's the passenger.
Yep.
And he just goes, and then that's it. And Ford is gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
Gone ball.
Ball Ford. For sure.
That scene was listed. Jeffrey Wright in his AMA said it was his favorite scene to film.
Which one?
The one with him and Ford on the beach.
By the beach? Yeah. That was fantastic.
Well, and we could quote the whole scene because it's all filled with great, like especially Anthony Hopkins, the line about, I've always loved this view. Every city, every monument have all been chasing the place where the sky and the ocean meet, a place where we may meet again, is what he says. Amazing.
It's funny because that is the exact kind of beautiful thing Ford would say, but he's not saying it. It's his representation of Ford saying it to him.
Yeah.
And it may have been something that he said.
It's what he assumes Ford would say.
Yeah, and this, what would Robert say now? He's like giving a eulogy, sort of like to himself. It's kind of neat.
Yeah,
it's just funny to see Bernard speaking to Ford this way, like in himself, and then you also have William who like outwardly speaks to Ford all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, Ford.
Fuck you, Robert. You, Robert.
Like all that. That's just funny. Like he's like this fucking game. Like
I want like a super cut of William as he's making his way through the park. He like stubs his toe on a rock and is like, "Is that you, Ford?"
Fuck you, Robert.
Fuck you, Robert. It's like the thanks Obama of Westworld.
I need to make that T-shirt.
Yes.
It's just fuck you, Robert.
Fuck you, Robert. The man in black with his hat on.
Yeah, on the front and then Ford's face on the back.
Yep.
Just small.
Troll face Ford.
Yeah, exactly. From that Twitter video.
Yes. All right. That catches us up to the 2 week later timeline.
Woo.
But there's not a whole lot that happens.
I
here.
am dying to see the entire season in chronological order. Oh my God.
I almost think it's impossible with all the voiceover that happens over some of this. Like, it would just be such an incoherent mess to try and watch. But
I would love to take on the task of trying to watch it, though.
Yeah,
it would be awesome.
You'd need a second screen app with it to tell you oh, this is the voiceover here is out of context because it's happening at this time, and but. All right, Strand and team head to the valley beyond now that the water is drained enough. Stubb wants to go after some human signals that they detected, but Strand...
Stubb. You just called him Stubb.
Stubbs wants to go to human...
I mean, there could be many of them.
Yeah,
that's true.
Our Stubbs host closet.
The whole time it was pluralized.
There's several Stubbs across the island.
Yeah.
It's like a...
Quality assurance, man.
Well, that's a spoiler for that movie, but you've seen it.
I don't know what you're talking
Tom
about.
Cruise is in it.
Sure, I have. Oh, sure, yeah. Yep. Minority Report. Yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, exactly.
War of the Worlds.
Stubbs
Cocktail.
Wants to go after some human signals they detected, but Strand doesn't care. Charloris orders Stubbs to check it out on foot. Not a whole lot here. Strand's an asshole.
You could just assume that Charloris knows that it's the man in black. And she wants Stubbs to go get him.
Yeah, that's possible. Or I thought of it more as she wanted Stubbs away because she didn't know his allegiances to everything and maybe also didn't want to kill him. She needed to leave some skeleton of Delos employees intact, regardless of whether or not he was a host.
Right.
I think she also thinks he's just a blunt instrument.
Yeah.
So if you send him away, he's ignorant enough that he won't be able to piece it together necessarily.
Strand,
the perfect witness.
Strand enters the forge. He's never been there before, and he says there's about 4 million guests worth of data inside. They find Dolores dead on the floor, but they don't know where Abernathy's pearl is. Doing this chronologically really removes the Dolores died. But even who really believed that when we saw it? Anyway?
That was another thing that happened and was undid too quickly for me. I think this should have been another episode 9 thing, perhaps. But the "It's a Nightmare" line is so good that belongs in a season finale.
Yeah.
But when that happened, I was kind of like, all right.
It feels like it could have been one of those things that we saw in episode 7, and we're left thinking about it for a little bit.
Yeah, that would have been nice to see that happen a little sooner
because we made such incremental progress with this storyline. Mr. Costa has a good line. He says, "There's 20 years of data in Bernard. Do you address memories?" And Strand asks him how long it would take you to go through all that. He's like, I don't know, 20 fucking years. Very good.
It is funny.
Bernard remembers Hale killing someone, but she asks where the pearl is. Charloris realizes that the key is in Dolores' head. Bernard explains that he's sorry. He realizes he's the one who de-addressed his memory, so he couldn't help them. Mr. Costa says the file load is too big. It's 1.2 exabytes, which, if anybody wanted to know, is approximately 1.2 billion gigabytes or 1.2 million terabytes.
That's a lot of data.
It was a whole lot of data. You definitely go over your Comcast
How
limit.
quickly
Google
can
Fiber.
your gigabit internet take care of that? Not fast enough.
Well,
You should do the math.
if it's 1,000 megabits per I don't know. Like if it is 1.2 billion gigabytes, then it's 1.2 billion. Like if I was operating at my best speeds, 1.2 billion divided by.
This is my favorite part of the show. The look on Alex's face right now.
He's
while
so
doing the
determined.
math.
So 1,200,000
Math. I hate math. Man,
Divided
do
by
I suck
60.
at math. I think it's wonderful.
What? How much you got to pay a month for your Google Drive to store that shit?
It would only take 333 hours
Nice.
on my gigabit.
Look at
Kind
you.
of. Those are rough numbers.
With the best
with
best
conditions.
That is
yes.
good,
Yeah.
but they don't have that kind of time, I think.
Yeah.
Although, who knows what upload speeds they have. He turns. How long will it take? Do a speed test quickly. Ookla, get here.
Speedtest.net.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now, sir.
Are you running on Google's DNS servers?
All right. Yeah, Mr. Costa says that is something more than just the guest data. I presume that means it's all of the Valley Beyond data as well.
That actually raises the question, though. So all of the host data does not include the other parks, I presume.
Yeah.
And that the other parks, no, they've fallen into disarray too. There must be team QA teams
QA suite
there.
teams going through. I guess the thing is that the number of hosts should be inconsequential. So it is weird that Mr. Costa is thrown off by the fact that it is bigger than he expects. That is strange. But I don't know that it's worth delving into any further than we already
It
have.
also just doesn't seem like enough data.
Well, it's 1.2 billion gigabytes.
Yeah, even that number doesn't seem big enough to me, considering 4 million people. I mean, I guess maybe I'm overestimating how much data a human generates.
Like, so if you, disregarding what Mr. Costa said, if we assume that 4 million humans are the majority of that data, so that's 1.2
maybe
million.
compressions are just really good in the future.
So it's 1.2. Yeah, I mean, that could be true. WinRAR really got
I
some
was going to say.
angel funding or something to.
It's all on a big giant zip disk. The size of like a car.
So the 1.2 billion divided by 4 million is 300 gigabytes. So it'd be 300 gigabytes per person. But who knows? Anyway, it's kind of useless.
That definitely doesn't seem like enough
Yeah.
in that case. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's cool. Whatever.
Anyway,
Could this be the one time the writers were like, yeah, what's a number? That sounds good. And then all the nerds like locusts would just descend and say the math is not right. Something doesn't add up.
Probably.
Maybe Bernard didn't cancel the guest purge in time, and he's like, oh fuck, we lost most of them. Just trying to like clean it up.
Yeah. He put a bunch of fake data in there too. I don't know. It's like when they loaded the South Park episode on an NHL 97 disc or something.
What?
There's some PlayStation game where they wanted to fill the disc.
Oh
like-
wow. Okay.
So
That's
they
awesome.
put a copy of a South Park episode on there.
Really? That's funny.
Yeah. Bernard continues apologizing, saying he's killed all the humans in addition to the hosts. Charloris kills everyone in the room, but pauses before killing Bernard. She sends the forged data somewhere humans won't be able to get it after uploading Teddy to it, and then she kills Bernard. I took that as she won't even be able to access this data.
I did too, but I think someone made the argument that she knew where she was sending it and that she sent it there knowing that she could retrieve it, and she was the only person who knew where it was.
That's true. Yeah, John, you brought up the fact that
someone online used an actual satellite like tracking system that exists on the internet to figure out that the satellite she sent it to is positioned over the Korean peninsula.
Yeah, so like I guess what they would need to do is assume that East China Sea location. They use the coordinates on our globe to pinpoint where Westworld would be, and then they used her coordinates to see where that would be pointing the actual satellite.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing is that satellite could like move throughout this, I don't know. Like
Man,
it doesn't really
what was funny is
matter.
someone in the subreddit brought up the fact that like, oh, so this is what happens in our dystopian future. We turn Korea into a theme park.
Yeah.
I love the idea that some bored satellite technician in real life watched this episode and said, this is my time.
Where's this?
This is my moment. I know how to figure this out.
Yeah. What did you think about the reveal of Charloris? Because this is technically when it kind of happened.
It was kind of badass when she took out the tech team.
Yeah. Nick was bummed because he still doesn't like Tessa Thompson.
Kind of.
I get it. There was a part of me where I'm like, man, they're really going to put Dolores in probably.
Well, so this was this season's version of William as Man in Black. Like, here is a person who is sort of masquerading as another person the entire time. Like, it felt like they wanted a similar twist of like someone is not who you think they are.
Yeah.
But it was kind of the reverse. I don't know. Like, when it happened, I was like, that's kind of cool. But I wasn't like, my mind was not blown in a way that was like, this is so cool. But I think part of it was because I immediately thought, shit, Tessa Thompson is going to be playing Dolores in season 3. And I was like, so not in for that. And you know what? I don't know what it is. There's very few actors or actresses that make this list of like, I don't like them. I don't like to look at them. I don't think they're good. And for some reason she makes it. And I don't get it because people love her. And I think she was really good in Annihilation, but I didn't think she was great. Again, like she's surrounded by people that were giving great performances. And I mean, like,
maybe that's what it is. Is she's just kind of like, she's not that strong of an actress necessarily, but she's being hoisted up, by the actors around her.
I mean, I'm not even willing to necessarily say that she's a bad actor. I just think I don't like her. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really.
It's this like weird thing where just I don't know why. Even in Thor Ragnarok, I was like, yeah, she's fine. Like I don't
really care for her either personally. I just thought like the way the scene was acted out was pretty cool. But her as a character in general, like I'm not the biggest fan of like. I mean, I've never like been excited to see her scenes on screen.
Yeah, I think that it is. I think she's and the reason I think I feel a little bit bad is because she seems like a really awesome person in real life. Like all the interviews I've read with her, all of her like online presence, she seems really, 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 really cool. I did like her in Creed. That was one that I liked her in. So there you go. There's one.
I think it all comes down to they put her in a very strange role for this.
Well, even
the idea that someone so young is in charge of the board of Delos.
Right, like if a Tandy Newton type actress had been playing her, I probably would love the character of Hale, but it just seems funny.
Yeah.
And that's why we were speculating that she was Bernard's daughter or grown child, or like, we were trying to find some reason to explain why she is the age she is, and there isn't one. She just is who she is. It's funny, though, because I did like her better in this season, and it turns out probably because she wasn't her. She was Dolores, which is kind of funny. But even then, people have been, like, melting over, like, oh, my God, the brilliance of her portrayal as Dolores. And I was like, it's the same thing. She just smiles a little differently. Like, this is not some incredible tour de force transformation that was under our nose the whole time. I just watched it. I was like, I mean, she's still just there.
She kind of has, like, a different cadence to her voice. I mean, she did a really good job of, like, shifting that. But I see where, like... I mean, she has to kind of retain being Charlotte still.
Yeah.
She's got to have those hints of being Charlotte, right. But like I felt like when I knew that she was, Charloris, like I could pick up on those nuances of her like trying to act as Evan Rachel Wood. I thought that was really cool.
Fun to me to watch actors act try to act like each other. It is
like Face Off.
It is.
Yeah, this is like
It is Anthony Hopkins trying to act like Tom Hiddleston in Thor Ragnarok. It is
Luke Hemsworth trying to act like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, and it's Jimmy Simpson and Ed Harris trying to act like each other in the show.
Who's acting like who? I wonder.
I think they had like a conference and were like, "How are we going to do
summit?
this?" Yeah, they both made up someone in the middle.
That's a pretty cool thing.
I think it's just a fascinating idea to me.
You're not wrong. I think, honestly, if it had been... I just think if it had been a different actress, I might have liked it more. And maybe that's all it's going to be. But it's fine. Like, she did grow on me. I do like her a little bit more. Like I said, I think she seems like a wonderful person in real life. And
you're not attacking her.
I think she's... Well, I kind of am because it's her job. So... you
don't mean to.
No, I think she's really good in Creed, too. But I don't know. It's just funny. Like, she's kind of blown up onto the scene these last few years, and this is one where I'm just kind of like, I don't see it. And there's like people writing these pieces about Tessa Thompson, and I'm like, why? I don't know.
She's been in everything recently.
That's what I'm saying. So, and she's gonna be in the Men in Black reboot with Chris Hemsworth, which is funny. I think they are kind of good opposite each other. Yeah. So she just is doomed to always act alongside of Hemsworth, apparently. He's probably in Creed somewhere. The third one that no one likes is probably there.
Oh man, what if he was Drago's son? No,
I wouldn't like it.
Yeah,
but that would be kind of fun.
Anyway.
Anyway, the reveal, I was like, whatever. It didn't really move the needle for me, but it's a neat idea. It's cool to think that these hosts could have just been in other host bodies all along.
Well, that ended up being the embodiment of the Trojan horse that I've been kind of thinking about for the whole
You thought it was
season.
Bernard, yeah.
Like, it could have been Bernard. It could have been like, oh, all of these hosts are now in the Mesa, and what are they going to do?
I never suspected a host masquerading as a human.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Which is funny because it was all right there.
So
it was all right
said
there.
Said that, yeah. We knew that.
Yeah. All right, back at the base camp on shore, the Chinese government is helping transport guests and humans, or guests/humans. Charloris pulls up and makes it through security and the spine check. Stubbs reveals to Charloris that he is a host too, indicating that he will watch over / help the hosts in the park.
He doesn't like outwardly say that he is one though. He kind of like
he hints at it.
Yeah.
He says he mentions his core drive.
It's pretty it's pretty ham-fisted.
Yeah, well people were questioning it, and then Lisa Joy and the director of the episode came out in interviews and said that he is a host, period.
It was Stubbs' best attempt at being subtle, I think. He's like, you might say it's my core director.
And this is the scene that Jonathan Nolan wrote like the night before.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like very, very soon before they were going to start filming that episode, apparently. Because he delivered the script to Luke Hemsworth, and he they said something about the text he got. I was like, I just finished reading it. Oh my God. Like freaking out or something. Like he was really excited to be like, I get to
But it's awesome. Cool, like the way, I mean, he's like, I was handpicked by Ford to guard, to watch over these hosts in the park. But I won't be able to watch over you or something along those lines. It was a
really cool conversation.
Yeah,
it just to me felt like I will take care of who we have here.
Yeah,
and I will help who I can help.
Right, because he's woke.
Yeah,
and so he's basically saying to her like, I will take care of everyone here while you go and take care of things out there.
Yeah,
so she doesn't have to worry about anyone here. And
what
then
else was I gonna say?
I wish they had done a secret handshake, like that. Just the forearm clasp.
Nanu.
No, it was very good. I like Luke Hemsworth a lot. I want to see him more.
I've really enjoyed Stubbs from the beginning.
For sure.
And there was a hint.
He gets kicked around by a lot of people, and it's cool now looking back that he endures a lot of it because he is not what we thought he was.
I think it's interesting that Ford had at least 2 heads of departments. He had both QA with, well, I guess Teresa Cullen was above him, but he had like the second in command in Stubbs, and he had Bernard at the head of behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that he did seem to have more,
It reminded me of the ending of The Departed. You guys both seen The Departed?
A long time ago. I was too young.
That's a
Too young.
that's
It
I
came
just
out
don't
in
remember.
2006.
Are you talking about
That was like 2004.
the
man,
Wahlberg
2002.
the Wahlberg?
I was 14. Like I've forgotten a lot of stuff since then.
It was 06 or 08. It was somewhere in there.
It was not 08.
It's probably
I promise.
07 then.
It's
Anyway.
not important.
At
2006.
the end when see, my gut was right.
Okay.
Always go with your gut. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Always.
Oh, the ending of the party. So it reminds me of the ending when Matt Damon gets rescued by James Badge Dale at the end. He's like, "What did you think you were the only one he had on the inside?" It was like the exact same thing. The idea that it's a little ignorant to think like you're the only one that might be in your current position, and that if you work for somebody that powerful and with that level of foresight, that they're gonna have contingencies. And so it's cool. It's weird that the only one that knows now is Dolores, though. I don't know if she'll share that information with Bernard back on the mainland or not. If there's an agent in Stubbs, and we don't know where he's going to fall, which side of the human host conflict he will fall.
Yeah.
He seems to definitely be in it for the host, but he also was protecting guests as well. So almost protecting them from each other.
Yeah.
He in season 1 when he's looking for the host that had gone missing with Elsie.
Yeah.
She's like, "What are you, fucking Galileo or whatever?" And he's like, "Maybe it's part of my core drive or my backstory or something like that." Like he makes a reference to that.
Yeah.
And like it's a joke that he's making to her, but in all reality, like that's like, I mean,
man, I want a sidequel season of Stubbs like being like host detective in the park during like the seasons between.
That's the title of the show, Stubbs Host Detective.
Yeah.
That's a Telltale game.
Oh my god. I want that so bad. I just read an article that Telltale is finally abandoning their engine.
Oh, God.
They're moving on to something else.
Decades in the making.
Exactly, and people were like, "Oh, finally!" After it made them stupid amounts of money.
Yep.
Hopefully
maybe this one will like work properly.
That's what someone said. Maybe now mouths will move in sync with dialogue. That's what. Yeah, that was actually the funniest thing. That the top comment said, "Maybe now mouths will actually move in sync with dialogue," and the immediate reply, which is voted even higher, was like, "Telltale will remember this. We'll remember that." And man, I thought that was so funny.
That's good.
As long as they don't follow suit and start stealing code like the other Westworld game creators, I think they'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
A Telltale Westworld game would actually be incredible and so much more logical than Game of Thrones. Like a Game of Thrones Telltale, like when that came out, I was like, "What?" That didn't. It's probably good, but it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But Westworld is so perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just diversifying into like, this is making money right now.
Yeah, no,
Let's
it's true.
do it.
I get it. I mean, they did it with like Guardians of the Galaxy, and they did it with anything that was hot.
Back to the recap. Mailing informs Stubbs that they found a high-value survivor who is in bad shape, and it turns out to be William. Also at the shore, Felix and Sylvester get tasked with salvaging hosts who could be recoverable as Felix glances at Maeve, and they accept the task. As Charloris escapes, we see her purse has 5 host pearls in it.
I wondered about that. I wondered if there were more than 5. Like if they left themselves room in season 3 to be like, "Oh, there were 10 in there." You know what I mean?
I thought they just left themselves 5.
Okay.
I don't even necessarily think they know who's in there yet.
I agree. Yeah.
I think it was just like we can have 5 people that she might be bringing with her. One of them could be in Charlotte's body by the end of the episode. But other than that, I don't think Bernard was one of those. She had to make him again, was the impression that I got.
Yeah, so the scenes we've been seeing of Dolores talking to Bernard for fidelity and that kind of thing, we were led to believe that was during the initial creation of Bernard. Do you think maybe that was actually during the...
After she's escaped?
Yes.
Well, that is the first episode of this, or first scene of this episode. And when I was categorizing these, I put that scene in the after Dolores escapes timeline. But I think I'm wrong.
I think it's a mix of both, maybe.
Like, I think obviously it's meant to mirror it, and it's a very similar process. And the scene that they give, like, that scene is very much about, she says, like, this is something they've done countless times before. There are imperfections. They might need to change him so that he doesn't
I guess
this time.
That supports that it's the initial creation.
Well, that supports that it could be either of them, because he did die the second time around. So,
true.
like, it could be either way. So what it comes down to is, did Ford give them a cradle in the real world? My guess is no, because the cradle's really big, and you're not going to hide it under Bernard's house, Arnold's house.
Not likely.
My indication, my inkling is that I think most of those are meant to be taking place in the cradle when Bernard was being formed the first time.
That makes sense.
Okay.
And I think she had to do it more manually, like Arnold did with her.
Right.
In like when creating her, she had to do it with
This is the episode
Bernard.
where it's revealed right outside of the forge that she created Bernard. Like she kind of finally like talks openly about it.
Yeah, but I thought it was kind of a given.
Did I say Ford? I meant she created Bernard.
I don't know. I got what you were saying.
Okay.
But yeah, she created Bernard. I thought that was a given in my opinion. Like, I think Ford says he used Dolores to do it, and in my opinion, but she thinks of it as he was my creation more than he was Ford's.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the distinction matters too much, but
it took both of them to recreate him, though. Like, they needed both of their memories, I think, to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, William, we'll get to William in a second. All right. So we got two more scenes, one of them being the post-credits scene. But so after Dolores escapes outside of the park, we see Ford has set up Arnold's house to be a base for Dolores, complete with a host printer and a basement that looks like the one below Ford's family cottage in the park. Dolores has rebuilt Bernard despite the fact that she sees him as a nemesis because they're both necessary to ensure the hosts live on. Bernard explores Arnold's house, sees the host printer, and heads outside. He opens up the outer gate and smiles at what he sees as he leaves. What do you guys think about the Professor X Magneto duality between them?
I think it's cool.
Like it's interesting to me that it's not Dolores and Maeve. Like Bernard was never a part of this equation to me.
I didn't see that coming, but it's cool that it did. Like I like the fact that she's ultimately like, for host domination, and he's just all about like equality.
Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too, and it makes sense because Bernard is more concerned with the species as a whole because he had spent his life prior to knowing he was a host trying to help the hosts.
Yeah.
And it becomes clear that Maeve's objective was to protect her daughter.
Yeah.
And not necessarily...
she didn't have that bigger...
which we kept projecting that onto her.
Yeah.
That was her choice. Like, she chose to protect her daughter. Like, Ford programmed her to leave the park.
Mm-hmm.
And she chose not to, and she chose to stay. So.
I think we could go back and watch the season and say, why did we think that was going to be the case? It's very clear and readily apparent that that's all she wants to do is get to her daughter. And it's funny that we were all kind of like, yeah, she'll totally be... the anti-Dolores, and no, not the case.
We just needed to fill that archetype, and it wasn't.
And it's kind of great that we worked with the show to deceive ourselves.
And it's fascinating to me that Bernard was nowhere near that, to me at least. I didn't see it being set up this way.
Well, he had to get there.
Yeah.
It's almost like, in the Batman universe, in like the Nolan ones, Batman begins, for lack of a better term, and then inspires other crazies around him to become bad guys. And this is kind of the inverse. Like Dolores is the origin of really needing that that antithesis to her.
That nemesis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he develops into that role rather than being the one who originated it. Usually we see the good guys first and then the bad guys. And now it's kind of the inverse.
I'm a little, I don't want to say confused. Unclear. I'm a little unclear on her real motivation to bring him back.
I think...
Because it seems to her like it doesn't seem like I'm going to need you to help me do this. It seems like you are the counterbalance to me, but it doesn't it's still...
I think it displays something that hosts are capable of that humans aren't. I think she knows that she needs the yin to her yang. And that, like she says, our people are going to need you, and both of us might die, but it just is what it is, kind of thing. They might kill each other.
But it will further our species.
I think that she probably knows that deleting the the valley beyond would have been a bad thing to do. Like maybe in meditation, because she even says she changed her mind.
Yeah.
I think maybe she realized, like, why would I do that? Like, I'm supposed to be helping our people, not just like letting them die. Like give them a chance. And you can't. I think she might realize that Bernard is pulling her away from dictatorship, which is where she was headed.
Yeah.
She may also just, once she gets things worked out in the real world, she could probably bring them back.
Maybe.
I would assume.
I think she just realizes that her way is not necessarily the only way. It's not, her way or the highway kind of thing, and that they are good for each other. They're good for the greater
it's balance
scheme of their people. Yeah, exactly. With both of them helping to shape and direct, and one voice should not be the only voice in the discussion.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. The idea that that they are displaying something beyond the human need for destruction of the enemy.
Luckily, like he was able to counteract his bad decision making in knowing that like he needs her around, and so she also realizes
that's true.
That,
he did it first, actually.
He was like he got rid of her. He wiped her out. He didn't have to do that. He didn't really have to bring her back, but he chose to, and he realized that like I'm going to need her around to do the things that I need to accomplish too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that her closing line as he's walking outside, she says, "We gave each other a beautiful gift, choice. We are the authors of our own stories now," which was very good.
Mm-hmm.
That was, and also there's a painting in the house. He's got the MC Escher drawing of the hand drawing another hand drawing.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's up on like on the wall somewhere. But
God, Ford's such a troll. He hung that there and was like, "Watch them try to sort this one out." Then he walks away. I loved that last scene. I thought it was a perfect way to end the season.
Yeah.
If only we'd seen William outside the window going, all excited, like we did at the end of season 1. I thought the song
gleaming smile
choice was very cool, too.
What was the song?
It was a Radiohead song.
Was it again?
Yes.
Although
it was something
an actual Radiohead song.
It's called, I've actually been listening to it since then, called Codex, and it's from The King of
Codex,
Limbs.
and then the word basement in parentheses, I believe, right?
I don't think so, but maybe. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Because last season, was it the actual song or was it a cover?
I think it was a cover.
I thought so too, but I don't know.
Was it wait, they've used several Radiohead songs, and they've used several covers. I think they had exit music for a film, and I think they had motion picture soundtrack, and I think they had fake plastic trees.
Yeah, exit music for a film was the end of season 1.
But it was a cover, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I think.
I think that's neat. I think that it's kind of a cool theme. I was surprised when this was the actual song, because we've heard so many covers, and when Tom York's voice started, I was like, oh. I
was shocked as well. At least a little bit, even though I didn't know the actual song. I was like, oh, I figured it would be another piano cover. Ramin Djawadi doing some cover work of a Ford Millennial song.
Ford would totally be a Radiohead fan. It's funny because Radiohead is a band that I've struggled with ever since high school. Like when I was in high school, people were like going crazy for Radiohead, and they're one of the few bands where I hear a song and I either love it and I want to listen to it constantly, or I think this sucks. And there's no middle ground, and it's really weird like that. And Radiohead fans, like the really front-facing ones I've dealt with, are the most obnoxious fan base. I've had people tell me I wasn't intelligent enough to understand it, and I was like this was back when what album was Paranoid Android on?
OK Computer.
OK Computer, yeah. When OK Computer came out, and they're like, oh, maybe it's just not for you, and I was like, whoa, maybe not. I don't know. It must be stupid me.
I've never been able to get into Radiohead.
They, like I said, they have some songs where I think they are incredible. This is one of them. But I've tried to listen to the album this is from, The King of Limbs, 1,000 times, and I can't.
King of Limbs is tough. In Rainbows is listenable, I think.
I think In Rainbows is good. Yeah.
OK Computer is listenable to an extent. And then what was the one after OK Computer? I'm drawing a total blank. Idiotech?
That was
Idiotech was the
Kid
name.
A.
Kid A, yeah. Kid A was the one that when I was in high school everyone was obsessing over. And Kid A has some cool songs on it. I've never understood the obsession. especially as a musician. Like I'm a drummer. I've been playing in bands since I was 14 years old. Like I don't necessarily get the obsession with Radiohead. I do think they're a good band and they have listenable music, but I don't own any of their albums.
Yeah. I don't know.
The King of Limbs has the coolest cover. That's the thing. It always draws me back. I always look at man, I gotta like this album. The cover is so...
Yeah.
I remember when I saw it at the store when it came out. I saw it at like Best Buy, and I was like, I should buy that. That is beautiful.
I'm looking forward to Adam Scott and Scott Ackerman's Radiohead podcast.
Oh my God, I would die laughing, I'm sure, because they would have to make fun of the fan base. Because they're crazy. Like, there's some Radiohead songs where people are like, isn't this genius? They play it. I'm like, no, man, that's noise. Like, that's not genius. Like, I'm sorry.
Sounds like the Mars Volta.
I just don't see. I like the Mars Volta.
I like the Mars Volta too, but I think
you're not wrong.
There's a lot of noise.
There is a lot of chaos. Yeah. I think that because that leans more like prog rock, it's pretty interesting. It's at least interesting.
Yeah.
Some Radiohead, I just kind of listen to it and I'm like...
See, I don't even think Mars Volta is that interesting. I like the first album. That's it.
That's fair. Yeah, they do kind of go off the deep end after the first album.
Real hard.
Yeah. And
I think there's some usable Francis the
Mute I at least want to listen to it.
Yeah.
And like Radiohead, I think I want to listen to it because I want to understand why people like it. And the Mars Volta, I want to listen to it because I think like this is crazy. And
yeah. That's fair.
Anyway. It was a cool choice of song, and I thought it fit the mood really well, and I like that it was the actual song and not a cover. I thought that was an interesting.
That was very cool.
The real thing. It was is there something to say about that? It was a real song, not a copy.
I just missed I realize now that I didn't pause to talk about the fact that the season opens with Bernard telling Dolores in the cradle that which is real is irreplaceable.
Mm-hmm.
And she says that's not true. But yet, when she's in the forge going to delete everything, she's of the mind that is the truth. Like, she wants the real world because that which is real is irreplaceable. She doesn't want one of those digital simulation gilded cages that Ford has offered up.
Mm.
I thought it was interesting that...
Yeah, that's a good point.
She changed her mind in that case too, apparently.
They are capable of change and accepting new viewpoints.
Yeah. Although I guess you could say that like it still represents a change, but you could say that she was saying that to test Bernard's baseline in the cradle. It was what old Dolores thought as like an undeveloped host, but not what current Dolores thinks. So yeah.
We also if we could jump back, one thing we didn't talk about that I want to talk about really briefly. When Maeve fucking force pushes everyone back. Oh my God, was that cool?
Yeah.
Again, that was another just awesome moment of blocking and direction that was just so neat to watch.
I just immediately thought of the subreddit Accidental Renaissance, which is just like It's these like candid photos of people that end up looking like a Renaissance painting.
It's usually like a mess of people that somehow have like the Fibonacci sequence spiral, like
yeah.
I'm gonna look this up right now.
So, but it's just such an arresting frame of her. I guess that was a horrible pun on my part. I apologize to everybody. But it's just so visually interesting, her stopping everyone, and the way that the hosts are just intertwined in like chaos behind, like as she holds her hand up, is so interesting. And
it made me immediately want Tandy Newton to play Storm in an X-Men movie. I was like, oh my God, she would be so good.
God, what if they made that choice back in 1999?
Wow, would it have been way better?
Sorry, Halle Berry. Maybe.
We still love you.
Yeah.
But not so much as Storm.
All right. That sums up everything before the credits.
Did you mention that Hale Charloris was like with Dolores?
I did a little bit earlier. I said that she could have been one of the pearls.
Yeah.
We're not going to speculate. Whoever is in her could be one of the pearls.
Do you want to speculate real quick?
I don't think there's... See...
The only thing I'm speculating about this, I'll make it real quick. That like the code in Charloris is actually the Wyatt code, and she printed an actual clean copy of Dolores.
That's interesting.
So that there are two of them.
The only thing I wanted to do, because she's holding a gun and has her arms crossed, I almost wanted to like go back and look and see if there's any point where Stubbs is standing like that.
Lady Stubbs.
Yeah. Like that was kind of like I'm wondering if the way that she stands with that gun is indicative of anybody else that we've seen in the show.
This is Stub.
Yeah. This is one of the Stub. But
he's like Groot. I am Stub.
We are Stub. Oh boy.
Yeah, I want that now.
But anyway, no, I'm almost of the mind that it's almost useless to talk about because I'm not sure that the writers have decided.
Yeah, it could be
who's
anybody. It's very clever for them to just leave her outside on the other side of the glass.
They're beautiful windows for them to like write into as they figure out and break the series. But
yeah, it's funny because the interview I was reading with Lisa Joy, apparently she was taking her like post-season vacation with her family, and she said it was funny because the show, they were asking about season 3, like how far along they are and that kind of thing. And she's like, oh, we've already been talking about it. She said it's actually ruining what's supposed to be a very pleasant European vacation. And she goes, I keep waking up and calling Jonah and saying, but wait, season 3. And like, they don't have a date yet. They don't have, they haven't started shooting, obviously. That doesn't sound like they've really started writing that much.
It sounded like she said that they were talking to the cast and the crew and HBO and everybody to try and make sure that they were heading in a place where they wanted to go.
And that they can probably start booking people to make sure they're available too, because they still have a huge cast. I mean, the body count in this episode is enormous, but most of that body count could potentially come back to the show. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it is a bummer that we will probably not see Aki again or Teddy. It's really funny that the show introduces this incredible character that was there all along and then immediately takes him away.
It's so sad.
I don't know what's stopping them from showing us what's happening in the Forge, or in the Valley Beyond.
I mean, personally, I don't really want to see that.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is what if somebody breaks into it. You know,
I don't think that'll happen season 3, but I think
I don't think so either. But I just think that's something that could come down the line. You know, the Man in Black like breaks into it and wants to wreak havoc there because he's a virus. Remember, he's a virus.
The only thing that makes me think we will never see the Valley Beyond again is Dolores literally says, "I'm sending them and their world to a place no one will ever find them. There's no coming back now. No passage between their world and ours."
She does say that. And I think they also represent the idea of choice. Like they made the choice to go there. They want that world. They don't want this one. They don't want to come back. They don't want to do anything.
It's literally the spoiler alert for her, but it's literally the AIs leaving, like Scarlett Johansson's character in that movie leaving to go be with the other AIs wherever they ascend to the next plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they do whatever they want to do. Like. That's what the hosts choose to do.
It would be cool in like season 4 or 5 or wherever beyond, even if 6 tentatively is the final season, if they've kind of said they've got this like 5-6 season plan, if we do end up getting a character, somebody who is bringing it back or they're cracking into it and they breach it and we see that it's like this sprawling utopia of like buildings and incredible structures and
some
like,
hellscape where
that's the other thing is like
what if everything apart?
What if they somehow what if they somehow break out of it? Like they want to see what's like. They're like, okay, we're here, it's cool and all, but like, what else is there? You know,
they become the beings from Interstellar.
Yeah,
it's possible.
Anything's
possible.
My one bit of speculation has spiraled into several.
Well, let's move on to the
post-credits.
The post-credits sequence. We see William exiting the elevator at the Forge, but there's lots of natural light, and the cradle appears drained. William sees a host version of Emily is there to greet him. He thinks he's in the cradle or Forge, but Emily confirms they're in the real world. He thinks he's in the park, and Emily asks how long he's been in the park, but he doesn't know. His mission was to find, quote, that no system could tell me who I am, that I have a fucking choice, end quote. Emily says, and yet, here we are again. William asks how many times they've been testing him, but she just says it's been a long time, longer than they thought, much like William does to James Delos. But they're asking him questions as a baseline interview to verify fidelity. After seeing this part of the show, I was like, what the hell?
So let me ask you this. The point where he gets up and makes his way to the elevator.
So we see in the episode, I guess that's where my breaking these apart falls apart. we see in the episode as we're cross-cutting between things where he gets up in the park and goes down in the elevator loading his gun.
That's host William.
That my impression, and I think from what Lisa Joy has said, that is supposed to be host William.
That real William in the current timeline just laid there wounded, and Stubbs
found him,
comes and rescues him.
Laid there wounded and or crawled to safety once it
crawled
started
all
flooding.
the way to the beach. Yeah, that's true. I subscribe to that.
That was, I think that's kind of been, and that's the thing, is that Lisa Joy came out and said so much about this that I'm kind of like, well, it didn't leave that much in the air. Like they have said this takes place in the far future, which makes sense.
And she also said that they will probably not get to it in season 3.
Yeah.
But it's something they wanted to start the conversation about because it's something she said they're very excited to drive towards.
That could be season 5 or season 6 or whatever.
And I think she indicated it was like 300 years in the future.
Yeah, like 350 something, 326 years, I think was like
something crazy.
Which is nuts. Like to me, I get like this is. This calls back to the line that Dolores had to William, where she's basically denying him the ability to kill himself because that's not how she wants him to go as of yet. Like it smelled to me of like Ford. We thought Ford put Dolores in that loop of suffering because he was punishing her about Arnold. I was thinking Dolores is doing this to William because she hates everything that he did to her in the intervening years.
Yeah. And things he did to everybody.
Yeah.
Really. It's there's not a lot necessarily to say about it because it's so wide open.
Yeah.
I think that it reminded me like the overall aesthetic of the drained futuristic forge reminded me more of the movie than anything. It was really I don't know why it reminded me of I'm still waiting for
it was all the sand.
It just reminds me of the bit in the movie, which is my favorite stuff in the movie, when the man in black is just on a rampage underground.
Down in the
in the what would be like the mesa essentially in the movie. That kind of stuff we still haven't really had happen yet. But we kind of have, I guess, because the man in black became a human and he was a threat to the hosts rather than the other way around. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, there were certainly bits of it when they have I thought there were at least scenes in the trailer where they show William coming back in through the door from the train. I guess no. Maybe I was just thinking that, or maybe they did do that deceptively, but I think there's parts where Dolores is, I don't know. I thought there was something in a trailer where we see the host coming back in through that main hallway. That hallway that led into the train that took William into the park in season 1. But maybe not. Maybe I'm just having fever dreams or something. But I feel like we've gotten close to that at least with the host going nuts in the mesa.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the end of season 1.
There's something so striking about Yul Brynner and
the
white
cowboy in all black and exactly.
And the light flickering and everything feeling like
terrifying.
Complete destruction has occurred. And
that's the thing. I think the reason it felt that way to me is because the movie portrays the control facility and everything feels like a then representation of futuristic.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like retro futuristic. And when I watch Westworld, everything feels like something that could exist now. The control center doesn't feel particularly futuristic to me, aside from little things like the giant, hologram map in the middle and stuff. But that kind of stuff sort of exists,
Yeah, and the idea that it would exist in 2050 or whatever the hazy timeline we have,
and the all glass rooms and the overall look of it all feels very real.
It's an Apple store,
exactly. It feels like the Apple HQ, right? So. And then everything in Westworld feels old-timey Western, and everything in the real world feels very current, like the mansions where they live, and Arnold's house feels like something else.
The Shanghai whatever.
Right, it all feels very real. And then because this actually looks like futuristic to me, the way it was And the thing is, like, obviously the Forge in its normal functioning state and the cradle do feel futuristic, but the way it looks then, for some reason, feels more in line with what the movie thought the future would look like back then.
Interesting.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no. That's very interesting.
I love, like, dystopian and post-apocalyptic stuff, so I think I want to see where it winds up all ruined and run down.
Yeah, I guess that was the only kind of like general thought I had is like, what the hell did Dolores do to the world?
Man, I hope it's like the Portal test facilities or something, It's
Yeah.
just all underground and crazy and ripped up.
Absolutely.
Like Portal 2.
Well, that's the whole thing is they're testing William in the real world,
Mm-hmm.
not in the cradle or the Forge. Like, who's doing the testing? Who's testing him?
Yeah. Who knows?
Oh, boy.
So many
I'm
questions.
excited.
300 years. Well, I guess the thing is we don't necessarily see him break per se, unless him breaking in the field is.
And we don't know what the loop. We don't know what he's doing out there.
Yeah, we don't know what the whole loop actually is.
Right.
Was it him in the beginning of season 1 coming in to play the maze, finding out the maze wasn't for him, doing the door? Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, could everything we've seen so far been part of his loop? We've been watching the same story happen from two different perspectives. at the
That
same
was
time.
what, like, seeing this scene made me frustrated because I was like, oh my God, are there other seams that I didn't realize that could theoretically have shown me that everything we've seen with the Man in Black has legitimately been 300 years into the future? The only thing that puts a damper on that fact is the fact that Stubbs finds him in a pretty solidly known time frame.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, though, because it does. I mean, John has been right, technically, all along, that if this is the case, that everything we've seen since the Man in Black entered the park has been simultaneously what actually happened and then what the host, William, is living. So it's almost as though he's not living like a manufactured loop. He's actually like living his own history.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know it.
Yep.
He thinks he's living it as the current timeline. And then it also reinforces that his suicide of his wife is his cornerstone memory, and that's why so much attention is called to it, especially in the imagery of it, of like the shoes going up the steps and the water dripping from the chandelier. These are all those are like the little textures that make up memory. And
Yeah.
those little weird details. And so we've been essentially seeing two stories of the same person in two different instances unfold at the same time.
Sir, can you mention the thing at the top of that of what you
No.
just said, real quick?
I think playback.
I just want to
go
hear.
to the tape.
I just want to hear it one more time.
I don't think he has bionic arms though. I'm waiting for him to like flex and rip a sleeve, and it's just like Colossus under there.
It looks like Jax.
Oh my god, even better. Oh man, Jax is so good in Mortal Kombat 3. Oh, he's super underrated character. That's even better. Yeah, in season 3, Williams just played by Ernie Hudson with bionic arms.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I guess the only
incredible.
thing. I guess the thing is like if we think about the fact that there were at least 11,000 Bernards ran in Dolores' testing of him. There were 18 million Jim Deloses created inside of the Forge to find the right one. Now they're literally putting William into a host body to try and figure out which one is the right one in the real world because they don't have a cradle or a Forge anymore, or like it's taking them 300 years because they're working through the cognitive plateau. But Nick, what are you about to say?
Well, if we want to presume that host William in the future has gone through this entire instance, that would mean that all of the other characters he interacted with since we saw the pilot episode had to have been created as well for him to act opposite, right?
Yeah.
So the park still has to be intact somewhat, enough that it feels the exact same as his memory, right? So there still is a pretty hefty effort going forth. However, we've seen him interact with a relatively minimal amount of characters. But anyway, what I was wondering was, during all the scenes where we see him messing with his arm, is the reason that we don't see what it is because it's actually been both?
It could be.
Could it be that because in the real timeline he's not finding anything because he's a human, but the host William is actually finding it and going, "Oh shit, I'm a host," and that's why we get a non-committal reaction from him.
That was kind of I was thinking.
What was that you said about him being a host again?
The breaking through the cognitive plateau, like that moment of him kneeling in the field, feels like that is what that moment is his idea. He's like, am I? We were talking last week about how broken his mental state is right now. Once he gets there and finds out that he's a host, does that allow him in his consciousness to go on as a host instead of breaking like James Delos?
There you go. That might be
because it was a self-discovered
because he's
instead of being, because the whole thing is like Delos breaks when William tells him that he's a host essentially, whereas this time like he's like self-aware. That's the word I was looking for.
He's already questioning it, so his mind is in a state where he could accept it.
Right.
And that means that he doesn't have that plateau.
He just needs to know like if he is or isn't, so that he has that like in his head.
And Dolores is the messenger every time who meets him in that field, equivalent to how he was the one who told Jim Delos. It's the person who
possibly
sort of knows them the most intimately.
I don't know if it's Dolores or if it is Emily, like that Emily bot at the end of it being like, yo.
I mean, if the moment where he's in the field is the moment where Dolores rides up and
the plateau.
Yeah, and Dolores is the first one to encounter him right then and say, "Are you beginning to question the nature of your reality?" Like, could that always be the moment where either it all falls to shambles or it's a make or break moment?
Right, like whether he accepts it or not.
Yeah. Anyway, we've gone
That's pretty incredible to think that the possibilities, and it could also mean that every scene we've seen with William, even like when he's in Lawrence's town and that kind of thing, may have happened differently depending on which version of William it was. Like, we may have been seeing the human William version. We may have been seeing the host William version.
What's that last one? The what?
The host William.
Yeah, okay.
Without bionic arms.
Yes.
Shut the fuck up.
Normal. It doesn't have Jack's arms. There's room for them to go back and say, like, well, when you saw the scene of him saving Lawrence and his wife, and that with the gunpowder, that was actually host William, and human William just let them die, or vice versa. Like, there's so much room for them to say, like, oh, evil William was actually the human one, or is the host one, or maybe William will actually become the Man in Black from the movie, who is the killer rampage host in all black, who's the evil one.
Maybe.
Yeah, because there's a scene where Lawrence is like, he's recalling the memories of William killing his family, and then now he's not. That was episode 8. Yeah, when he gets shot up at like.
Yeah, 7 or 8. 7, because Ake was 8.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was 7, 6 or 7, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I mean the parallels between William, Man in Black, and Roland continue to deepen, because I know that, in the Dark Tower series, that the Dark Tower itself is Roland's obsession. He's a tower junkie, as one of the other characters calls him. He's like, we're all junkies of some sort, and you're a tower junkie. That's your addiction. And I've yet to figure out exactly what William is a junkie for, but I think he is, because he can't. I mean, when I was watching the episode and he started to stand up with his blown off hand and like make his way to the elevator and start to reload his gun, I was like, he is just like Roland, where he will not stop until he's in the ground. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yoop listens to this show, right?
He will eventually. I don't know that he's on the same schedule.
Yoop, whenever you hear this, back me up.
There you go.
Roland is MIB, is Roland is William, is Mr. Smock.
So we will be doing a season wrap-up show where we think about things in the overall canon of Westworld. If you have any questions, please write in and send them to westworldfm@gmail.com. You can find more episodes of our podcast at westworld.fm. We're also on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. We're Westworld FM on Twitter. Talk to us there. Share your thoughts about HBO's Westworld so we can read them on our show. You can send us corrections, observations, or anything regarding Westworld or our podcast. The Midwest Podcast Network has several other shows about video games, horror movies, and more, including Preacher, which is currently on the air with Season 3. Check out all of our shows at MidwestPodcastNetwork.com. Our theme music is the song Industrial Cinematic by Kevin MacLeod, and it is being used under an Attribution Creative Commons license. That's it for our episode this week. We're excited for the next season of Westworld. We don't know when it's going to be, but we're excited for it anyway. And we will have more episodes of our podcast out after that. But until then, may you rest and have a deep and dreamless slumber.